Konoha Uchiha, I get stronger by causing trouble. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 126, Finding the Target. Kyan came to the second floor and saw the third medical room in the corner at a glance. Pushing open the door, Kyan and the other three walked directly in. There was no medical equipment in the small room. There was only a woman with scarlet hair sitting in a seat, looking up at the sky outside the window. When she heard the sound of the door being pushed, she turned her head and looked over. There was no color in her empty eyes. When she saw Ichiro behind Kyan, she understood the purpose of his coming in. There were no words, just mechanically raised his arms and then lifted up his sleeves. There were bite marks all over the pair of white arms. Even people who don't have intensive phobia would feel their scalp tingling when seeing it. Seeing this, Kuryuhi and Shizune couldn't help but let out a cry of surprise. After Chiga put down Sarutobi Asuma, he frowned and looked at the woman in front of him, and then asked, "Uzumaki-masa?" Hearing her name, Uzumaki-masa looked up at Chiga and saw that the other party was the Jounin Satake from the Kusagakure village. Although she felt a little strange, she nodded and said, "Yes, Lord Satake." After confirming that the other party was the target of his trip, Chiga did not hide it and said directly, "I'm not Satake, I'm a ninja from Konoha." Hearing this, Uzumaki-masa was stunned at first, and then wanted to shout. It was Chiga who was always watching the other party, so he quickly covered Uzumaki-masa's mouth. "I came here this time to rescue you." There was no excitement in Uzumaki-masa's eyes, but she kept resisting. It seems that, when the Uzumaki clan was exterminated, not everyone could let go of their grudges against Konoha like Kushina did. Instead, it deepened a lot. Looking at Mr. Uzumaki, who was struggling to resist, Chiga was helpless. After thinking for a while, he could only say, "My teacher is Kushina Uzumaki. Do you still remember Kushina Uzumaki?" Hearing this name hidden deep in her memory, Mr. Uzumaki showed an unbelievable expression. In her mind, all the people of the Uzumaki clan were dead, and she was able to live on by selling her body. However, when it came to her friend, Mr. Uzumaki stopped struggling and looked at Chiga, her eyes full of expectation, but also mixed with a trace of fear. She was afraid that Chiga was lying to him and said Kushina Uzumaki's name. Seeing this, Chiga continued, "I didn't lie to you. Kushina Uzumaki is my teacher. She is now in Konoha village and lives a good life. In a few years, she will marry and have children with her beloved. I came here this time to take you back and let you meet teacher Kushina." Mr. Uzumaki stared at Chiga, and when she saw that Chiga didn't seem to be lying, tears suddenly welled up in her eyes. Seeing this, Chiga knew that the other party would not shout anymore, so she slowly loosened her hand. "Kushina, she is still alive, and some of my people are still alive." Uzumaki-masa cried. She was not happy that she could leave the hellish life in Kusunomi. Instead, she cried for joy when she heard that some of her people were still alive. Chiga silently watched Uzumaki-masa cry for a while, and then asked, "Do you have a place to live? Let's go to your place first." Uzumaki-masa nodded. The place where she lived was very simple and was near the medical department. Chiga and the other three transformed into members of the Satake team again, and Asuma Sarutobi no longer had to pretend to be the burned Ichiro. The four walked down the stairs, and Uzumaki-masa followed behind Chiga and the others. They met the captain of the medical team again on the first floor. Mr. Uzumaki said weakly, "When I treated Ichiro-chunin just now, I consumed too much chakra. Now I need to go back and rest for a while." The captain of the medical team heard this, looked at Ichiro, who had fully recovered, then nodded and said, "Okay, there are many wounded these days, so I can only give you one day to rest." The ninjas of the Kusagakure village also knew that they should not exhaust the fish, especially after knowing that the other party treated the seriously injured Ichiro. They agreed very happily. Mr. Uzumaki heard this, nodded, and left the medical department. Chiga exchanged a few words with the captain of the medical team and left with his teammates. They followed Mr. Uzumaki and soon arrived at Mr. Uzumaki's residence. Mr. Uzumaki's house is more like a small thatched hut than a house. The house is also quite simple. It seems that the Kusagakure ninjas don't regard Misa Uzumaki as their own. Back in Misa Uzumaki's room, Chiga set up a barrier around her and lifted the transformation technique. When Misa Uzumaki saw that there were only 4 children who rescued her, her face was also stunned. "Can you really rescue me?" Misa Uzumaki began to show a trace of distrust. "Don't worry, our captain knows the Flying Thunder God technique, and we can leave after we complete the mission," Sarutobi Asuma said. Misa Uzumaki heard this and then asked carefully, "If I go to Konoha with you, will you be the same as the Kusagakure? After all, she and Kushina are different. Kushina does not have her physique." Chiga was stunned for a moment, and then she showed a weird smile. Without Chiga's reply, Asuma Sarutobi had already started to complain. "You probably don't know how well senior Kushina is in Konoha. If anyone dares to touch you, I'm sure that the whole Konoha will not be peaceful." "Really?" Misa Uzumaki lowered her head. She hated Konoha because of Konoha's inaction back then, and she didn't dare to go to Konoha. Only by selling herself to the Kusagakure village could she get the protection of the Kusagakure village. But in the end, the Kusanagi didn't care about her life or death. They just treated her as a mobile pill and took a bite when she was injured. The way of draining her chakra and vitality made her weak all the time, and she didn't have much time to recover. Now that she heard that Kushina was living so well in Konoha, she also felt a little regretful. Seeing that Uzumaki Misa was in a low mood, Shizune walked behind her and said in a very gentle tone, "I'm a medical ninja. Can you take off your coat so that I can check your injuries? Okay, then I'll trouble you." Uzumaki Misa saw Shizune's caring look and nodded, then took off her coat and lifted her calves. There were bite marks on her exposed arms and calves. The latest bite marks even had blood stains, and it was obvious that she had just been treated today. "Are these wounds caused by the Kusanagi?" Shizune asked with gritted teeth. "Well, my physique is also very special among the Uzumaki clan. As long as I bite, I can quickly recover from my injuries and chakra, so." Chapter 127, Kusagakure Village Destruction Plan. Listening to Misa Uzumaki's narration, in order to have a place to take her in, Misa Uzumaki exposed her abilities to the ninjas of the grass country and was taken seriously at the beginning. The ninjas of the grass country also treated Misa Uzumaki as an experimental subject and drew a few tubes of blood from her to study this special physique. But the ninjas of the grass country were not Orochimaru after all. They were just a group of grassroots teams, and they couldn't figure out the reason. So, they gave up this move and made full use of Misa Uzumaki as a mobile blood bag, biting her when she was injured. Recently, the battles with the ninjas of the grass country have been quite frequent, and many people have been injured, so Misa Uzumaki can be said to have suffered a lot during this period. Yuhi Kurenai looked at the bite marks all over Misa Uzumaki in silence, and tears of sympathy appeared in her eyes. She gritted her teeth and said, "Beast." Chiga also sighed, regretting that she was late. Although it was because of Kushina that Chiga thought of Misa Uzumaki, it was also because of Kushina that she thought of saving Misa Uzumaki. But the inhumane practices of the land of grass still shocked his worldview. If Kushina knew that the grass ninja treated her people like this, he was sure that the entire grass ninja village would be burned up in her anger. Sarutobi Asuma and the other two had just left the novice village and had not yet fully entered the role of ninja. They still had sympathy for the weak. Sarutobi Asuma was furious about what happened to Uzumaki Misa. These grass ninjas really deserved to die. Even if they knew that the Uzumaki clan had such power, they couldn't treat them like this. Sarutobi Asuma slammed the table in anger. Fortunately, Chiga had already set up the barrier, otherwise the noise would be quite loud. "Chiga, can we teach these grass ninjas a lesson?" Sarutobi Asuma asked Chiga. Kurenai also clenched her fist in anger and echoed, "Damn it, if we only destroy the supplies, it will be too easy for these Kusa ninjas." When Asuma Sarutobi saw that Kurenai had the same idea as him, he also became excited and said, "Didn't we bring a lot of detonating tags this time? When we blow up the supplies, we can also place detonating tags on their living places and send them to heaven. But do we have enough detonating tags?" "Don't worry, knowing that the supplies will be destroyed this time, I specially took a lot of detonating tags from the old man's collection. I heard that some of these detonating tags were hand painted by the second Hokage. Well, they won't become ineffective after so many years, right? Kuro, you underestimate the second Hokage too much. The detonating tags he made by hand can be stored for 100 years without any problem, and they are more than twice as powerful as ordinary detonating tags. Come on, you two freshly graduated newbies, where do you get such a strong desire to kill? Seeing that Asuma and Kurenoi both wanted to make the Kyusa ninjas pay a heavier price, Chiga showed a helpless look on her face. He didn't mind their actions. After all, Sarutobi Asuma was there to support them. Even if the mission failed, Sarutobi Hiruzen would not blame them too much. It was just that he thought that he would only take Uzumaki Misa back with him on this mission and not cause any trouble. But he didn't expect that his teammates wanted to make trouble. Did he have to have accidents when he went on missions in his life? He glanced at Shizune, who had been silent, and breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, there was still a normal person here who didn't join in the fun. At this time, Shizune said softly, "Actually, we can poison it." Chiga. Seeing the surprised looks of the three people, Shizune took out 2 test tubes from the ninja tool bag, and the test tubes contained transparent liquid. She pursed her lips slightly, with a little excitement in her tone. "This is a poison carefully prepared by Lady Tsunade. She told us that, if we encounter an emergency, we can throw this thing out. The liquid will evaporate into the air. It is colorless and odorless. Even a Jonin will die within 10 seconds. The range is about 500 meters. The other bottle is the antidote. Just drink it in advance." After this, not to mention Asuma Sarutobi, even Chiga took a few steps back. "You put such a powerful thing in the ninja bag like this? Aren't you afraid that it will suddenly break?" Chiga waved her hands and said, "Put it back. We don't need it yet." I didn't expect that this girl who doesn't like to talk much would be so scary when she is ruthless. Seeing that the three of them all wanted to make the Kusanagi pay a greater price, Chiga was silent for a while. Logically speaking, Chiga should educate the three noobs verbally to let them understand that ninjas should not act on impulse and should not cause trouble during the mission. Unfortunately, considering that he has been causing trouble more often, it is too unconvincing. So Kyan followed the three people's thoughts and took out a piece of white paper from the ninja bag and wrote Kyusa village destruction plan on it. When the three saw these words, they immediately showed excitement on their faces. Destroying the village, this is a feat that only powerful ninjas can do. Kyan also drew the general terrain and buildings of Kyusa village on the paper. Okay, our first priority is to complete this A-level mission first. I have learned from Saburo before that the Kusanagi's supplies are stored in this location, but there will be a team of ninjas guarding it 24 hours a day. If we want to place the detonating tags, we have to get rid of this team of Kusanagi first. This problem is not a big deal. If I take action, the other party should not be able to react. Next, considering that you want to send the Kusanagi into the sky, we also need to place detonating tags in these concentrated residential areas, and then some important facilities. Then we need to get rid of the 2 teams of Kusanagi patrolling. This is more troublesome. Although the 2 teams of Kusanagi patrol different routes, as long as one team makes a movement, the other team will notice it. We must act very carefully. Kyan roughly planned the action plan, and then said in a deep voice, "Asuma and I will go to carry out the mission. Shizune and Kurenoi, you stay here to take care of Uzumaki Misa. I will leave a crow here. If there is any problem on your side, the crow will notify me. If there is no accident, after setting up the detonating tags, I will bring Asuma back here through this crow, and then we will leave the land of grass. If you have any questions, you can ask them now." Asuma Sarutobi and Kurenoi shook their heads and had no objection to Chiga's arrangement. Shizune thought for a while and asked in a low voice, is this test tube really not necessary? Keep it for yourself." Chiga sighed. This generation of genin is more difficult to lead than him. Then wait until 3 or 4 in the morning, when the enemy is the most relaxed, and then we will execute the plan. Now have a good rest. Chapter 128. The plan begins. At 3 o'clock in the morning, the entire Kusagakure village fell into silence. "Chiga, do we really not need to go together?" Yuhi Kurenoi asked, looking at Chiga and Asuma who were ready to go. "No, you two are still a little short of strength. Stay here." Take good care of Uzumaki-misa. She is an old friend of my teacher, and there must be no accidents. Chiga patted Yuhi Kyono's shoulder and gently squeezed it, with a hint of reminder. Although Uzumaki-misa seemed to be tortured in the Kusagakure village, she looked like she would follow them to death. But it's not wrong to be careful at this time. Let Yuhi Kyono and Shizune stay here. It's called taking care, but in fact it also means to monitor Uzumaki-misa. Don't underestimate the Uzumaki clan. After being a mobile blood bag for so many years, the amount of chakra in the body is still sufficient, and it is enough to bully Shizune. This is also the reason why Chiga asked Yuhi Kyono and Shizune to stay together. However, in the face of Chiga's reminder, Yuhi Kyono only noticed that Chiga's hand on her shoulder did not let go, and she didn't reply for a long time. Seeing this, Chiga could only remind him again, "Did you understand?" "I understand." "Kyono," he said in a low voice with a slightly red face. In the darkness, Chiga could not see Kyono-his expression clearly, so she could only assume that Kyono-he really understood. "Chiga, it's time to go," Sarutobi Asuma said impatiently. He had never been so close to Kyono before. After pushing open the door, Chiga's face became solemn. He turned his head to look at Sarutobi Asuma and waved his hand. "Let's go." As the night fell, Chiga sneaked in like a ghost. His movements were light and agile, and every step seemed to blend into the night without leaving any trace. Only a pair of scholar eyes danced in the darkness. Arriving at the Kusagakure's material storage area, two ninjas walked back and forth around the room. Chiga and Sarutobi Asuma squatted in a small grass, crouched slightly, and scanned the house with their Sharingan, and soon found the other two hidden sentinels. Multiple shadow clone technique. Chiga formed a seal and created 3 shadow clones. The 4 Chiga looked at each other and then disappeared in an instant. In the darkness, the grass ninja sentry hiding in the tree was paying attention to the surroundings, but he didn't notice that a figure had appeared below him. A breeze blew from behind, and the grass ninja, who was tightly wrapped in leaves, felt a chill on his neck before he could react. Then warm blood spurted out, and his pupils dilated as his life slipped away rapidly. At the last moment, he saw a figure appear behind his teammate who was patrolling around the room. The 4 Chiga attacked the 4 grass ninjas at the same time. "Don't you want to leave one for me?" Asuma Sarutobi saw Chiga solve the enemy in an instant, and complained with shock on his face. "I just felt that I didn't feel any sense of participation at all. This mission was really meaningless." "Put the detonating talisman." Chiga rolled his eyes at Sarutobi Asuma. "Little brat, someone will do everything for you, and there will be bonus points later. It's such a good thing that you can't wait to be happy. Why are you talking so much nonsense?" Upon hearing this, Sarutobi Asuma also took out a stack of detonating talismans from his arms, and with a smile, he pasted them around the material storage point. After finishing here, Chiga took Sarutobi Asuma to the place where the Kusagakure lived, wanting to replicate the action. Unfortunately, Sarutobi Asuma, who was a little careless, accidentally stepped on a dry branch. "Cap, who's there?" Although the voice was slight, this team of Kusagakure ninjas were very vigilant. As soon as there was any movement, they threw several Kune in the direction of the sound without thinking. Seeing this, Chiga also knew that his plan to destroy Kusagakure village had come to an end. But he didn't care much. He used the instant body technique to come in front of Sarutobi Asuma, drew out the wind, and blocked the several Kune for Asuma, while his other hand also made a seal. "Let's go." After blocking the attack, Chiga turned his head and said to Asuma Sarutobi. Asuma Sarutobi immediately put his hand on Chiga's shoulder. Swish. Before the Kusagakure ninja could see who the enemy was, Chiga had already brought Asuma Sarutobi back to Uzumaki-misa's room. Enemy attack. An enemy has sneaked into the village. Don't let them go. When the patrolling Kusagakure ninja saw the enemy disappear, he immediately took out a flare and fired it into the sky. The gorgeous red fireworks shone over the Kusagakure village. The entire Kusagakure village, the Kusagakure ninjas who were resting, woke up in shock. When they looked up and saw the fireworks, it meant a red alarm for an emergency. An enemy has invaded? Are they ninjas from the Flower of Grass or ninjas from Konoha village? Not sure yet. How many people are there? I only saw 2 figures. I'm not sure how many there are. Be careful and strengthen your vigilance to prevent the enemy from making a feint to the east and attacking in the west. This flare was like poking a hornet's nest. The entire Kusagakure village, from the Jonin to the Genin, all gathered together. After a moment of panic, the Kusagakure ninjas searched around, but did not find Chiga and Asuma Sarutobi. However, at this moment, Chiga had already detonated the detonating tag. Boom boom boom. The violent noise overwhelmed the fireworks in the sky. The sparks shot out and illuminated the entire Kusagakure village in a fiery red. Such a big noise instantly attracted the Kusagakure ninjas' attention. It's our supplies. Damn it, the other party is coming for our supplies. Go put out the fire. It's useless. The other party used a lot of detonating tags, and the whole house was blown up. Amid the Kusagakure ninjas' shouts, a burly middle-aged man came out. He looked at the place where the explosion occurred intently, and there was no change on his face. He just said in a deep voice, "Seal the gate." The other party didn't leave that quickly. Search the whole village. Yes, Lord Takeomi. The Kusagakure ninjas seemed to have found their backbone when they heard this, and they all responded. The middle-aged man named Takeomi is the leader of Kusagakure, an elite jonin. Damn it, it's all my fault. I didn't pay attention to my step. In Mr. Uzumaki's room, Sarutobi Asuma saw the Kusanagi ninjas outside pouring out, and he said in annoyance. Chiga heard this, but he didn't mean to blame her, and comforted her. Okay, it's so dark that I can't see clearly with my Sharingan. It's good enough that you can keep up with me. Although we failed to carry out the second step of the plan, the mission has been completed. Let's consider it a bargain for the Kusanagi ninjas. Hold hands with each other, and we should retreat. Chiga saw that more and more Kusanagi ninjas were coming towards Mr. Uzumaki's room, and she knew that if she didn't leave, she would be discovered. Hearing this, everyone held hands with each other, and then Chiga slapped Sarutobi Asuma on the body, and everyone's figures disappeared in Mr. Uzumaki's room. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 129, Chasing. As Mr. Uzumaki disappeared, the face of a Kusanagi who was searching for Chiga suddenly changed. He hurried to Takeomi and said hurriedly, "Oh no, Lord Takeomi, Mr. Uzumaki was taken away by them." What? Now, Takeomi's originally calm face finally changed. The destruction of supplies was within the scope of Takeomi's acceptance. After all, this supply was also aided by the Land of Earth. Even if it was lost, he could ask the Land of Earth for it again. Anyway, the Land of Earth was rich and had no shortage of supplies. The rock ninjas of the Land of Earth treated them as watchdogs, and they also treated the rock ninjas as suckers. But Mr. Uzumaki was different. This was the private property of their Kusanagi, and even the rock ninjas didn't know the existence of Mr. Uzumaki. And Mr. Uzumaki's healing ability was like having a few more lives. Although they, Kusanagi, could always suppress the ninjas of the Flower of Grass with the support of the Land of Earth, Mr. Uzumaki's healing ability was also very critical. Now that the mobile health pack of their village has been lost, how can they not be angry? The Kusagakure ninja used a very hidden perception ninjutsu on Mr. Uzumaki, and Mr. Uzumaki herself didn't know about it. It was a blessing from heaven that such an important item allowed her to move freely in the village, and the Kusagakure ninja would naturally leave mark on Mr. Uzumaki to prevent her from escaping. However, over the years, Mr. Uzumaki seemed to have accepted her fate and had no intention of escaping. The Kusagakure ninja also relaxed their vigilance. Unexpectedly, tonight, the supplies were destroyed, and Mr. Uzumaki, the mobile health pack, was taken away by someone. Where did you run to? Yingchen's eyes widened, and he pulled the Kusagakure ninja in front of him and asked. After closing his eyes and sensing for a moment, the sensing Kusagakure ninja pointed to the direction where Chiga left and said, "Over there, the opponent is moving very fast and is already 10 kilometers away from us." Impossible. Even a shadow can't move such a long distance in such a short time. Ichigo, did you sense it wrong? The Kusagakure ninjas who heard this around said one after another. No mistake, The opponent is not moving, but teleporting. Each time is 1,000 meters away. Yai shook his head and said, "Space-time ninjutsu, no mistake, it's the flying thunder god technique. Damn, it's a Konoha ninja." Yingjun heard the words. His face changed unpredictably, and after a little thought, he knew what ninjutsu it was. According to the information about Konoha ninjas, only 2 ninjas can use the flying thunder god technique. One of them is Namake's Minato. However, Namake's Minato has been active in the Land of Lightning, and the latest information is the same. The other one is. After excluding Namake's Minato, Yingjun's eyes began to flash with excitement. If it was Namake's Minato, Yingjun really didn't dare to chase him. Since Chiga left Minato's team, Minato and Kakashi have made a name for themselves in the ninja world. Although it is not to the point where he can give up the mission when he encounters the yellow flash, but with Yingjun's strength, he can't think of dealing with Minato. Chase, we must take back Uzumaki Misa, and we must catch the ninjas of Konoha. Uchiha Chiga, he is the person that the Land of Earth specifically wants. Use that brat's head. Not only can we get a bounty of 20 million, but we can also exchange a lot of supplies from the Rock Ninja. Yingjun waved his hand and led 300 or 400 Kusanagi to go out together. An hour later, 30 kilometers away from Kusanagi village, in a cave in the Land of Grass. Rest here for a while, let me slow down. Chiga sat down on the ground, and beads of sweat were all over his forehead. He took out a ration pill from the ninja bag and stuffed it into his mouth and swallowed it. Then he gasped heavily to restore his physical strength. Don't think that Chiga and Minato can use the flying thunder god technique to kill the enemy many times on the battlefield. That's because when fighting against the enemy, the distance of each teleportation is only a dozen meters, or even a few meters. Such a short distance does not consume much chakra. But once the flying thunder god technique is used to teleport thousands of meters away, the consumption will be much greater. In addition, Chiga also brought Sarutobi Asuma and the other 2 and Uzumaki Misa. So many people increased Chiga's burden, and even Chiga's chakra could not withstand such consumption. Upon hearing this, Sarutobi Asuma and the other 2 immediately checked the surroundings to see if there was any problem. Uzumaki Misa saw Chiga's weak appearance, hesitated for a while, and stretched out her arm full of bite marks to Chiga's mouth. Under Chiga's gaze, she whispered, "You can recover after a bite." "Don't worry," I said, "Konoha's ninjas will not treat you like this. Besides, we are already dozens of kilometers away from Kusagakure village. We have enough time to recover ourselves. They can't catch up for a while." Chiga flatly rejected Uzumaki Misa's kindness. Although biting Uzumaki Misa is the best choice at present. But if Chiga really did this, it would easily make Uzumaki Misa feel that she had just left the wolf's den and entered the tiger's den. Moreover, with the recovery method, Chiga can quickly add points with emotional value, although it is easy to cause the chakra in her body to riot, which is difficult to control. Of course, if it really comes to that critical point, Chiga will not hesitate. "Yes, Sister Misa, please rest assured, the Kusagakure ninja's approach will never appear in Konoha." Shizune on the side also persuaded. Seeing that Chiga was unwilling to eat, several other Konoha ninjas also said so. Uzumaki Misa smiled slightly, and her resentment towards Konoha was also put down. She looked at the environment outside the cave in trance, and felt a feeling of freedom for the first time. A trace of excitement flashed in her eyes, and she thanked Chiga and the other 4 people. "Thank you for bringing me out of the Kusagakure village." "Don't say that. Our Konoha and the Uzumaki clan are allies, and saving you is a matter of course." Sarutobi Asuma heard this, and waved his hand. Although there was nothing wrong with what he said, it also depends on who he said it to, and Uzumaki Misa's face, which was originally quite happy, also dimmed. If Konoha really regarded the Uzumaki clan as an ally, why did they watch the Uzumaki clan being exterminated and remained indifferent? If you can't chat, just shut up. Chiga rolled his eyes at Asuma Sarutobi. "What did I say wrong?" Asuma Sarutobi scratched his head, not understanding why his words hurt Uzumaki Misa so much. Chiga ignored Asuma Sarutobi, but thought for a moment, and said to Uzumaki Misa, "I'm sorry about why Konoha failed to help the Uzumaki clan 10 years ago, but there must be another secret. I don't know the details, but my teacher should know." If you have any questions about this matter, you can ask my teacher. Chapter 130 Walking 20 million. I understand. Miss Uzumaki heard this and knew that, after arriving in Konoha, she might be able to resolve some of her confusions, so she felt much better. That she put the shadow of the Uzumaki clan's extermination in her heart and then looked at Chiga in surprise. She didn't know how to address Chiga for a moment, so she could only ask, "Is your teacher really Kushina?" As far as I know, Kushina's personality is not suitable for being a teacher. Although she and Kushina haven't seen each other for about 10 years, reminiscing about the good times in the past is one of the reasons why she can stick to the Kusagakure village. She has always remembered the people and things in the past, and Kushina is her good friend, and her carefree personality doesn't seem to be able to cultivate such a careful apprentice. Just call me Chiga. My teacher is indeed Uzumaki Kushina, and they can prove it. Yes. Sarutobi Asuma and the other two nodded in unison. Miss Uzumaki sighed when she saw this. Kushina has really changed a lot. Not bad. Chiga also smiled awkwardly. It's true that Kushina is not very good at being a teacher. In these years, except for the sealing technique, he probably learned all other ninjutsu by himself. Kushina can only provide advice. During the chat, Miss Uzumaki also got closer to Chiga and the other four. 3 or 4 hours passed while they were talking and laughing. Chiga felt that he had recovered a lot. Since he got the sage body, his chakra recovery speed has increased a lot. Although it is not in full condition, he doesn't need to use Flying Thunder God to travel next. He just needs to lead the team to the direction of the Land of Fire. Not long after Chiga and the others walked out of the cave, they came to a flat grassland. Suddenly, they felt a breeze blowing gently, and the flat grassland fell towards Chiga. Be careful. Chiga's face changed slightly when he saw this. He was about to turn around to catch Sarutobi Asuma and the other four. A figure suddenly appeared from the grass. He jumped high, holding a knife in both hands, and chopped down at Kyan's head. Kyan drew out the wind and blocked it above his head. Clang! The powerful blow made Kyan's feet sink an inch into the ground. Kyan used both hands to push the opponent out and looked at him with a serious face. Although it was just a fight, Kyan had already felt that the opponent was not simple. The momentum was definitely not that of an ordinary ninja. At this time, 6 more ninjas appeared from behind this figure. 2 of them surrounded Sarutobi Asuma and the other 3, and the other 4 surrounded Kyan together with Yingchen. Sarutobi Asuma and the other 3 formed a swastika formation, and Uzumaki Misa was protected in the middle. Little devils of Konoha, you are really good at running. The leader Yingchen said hatefully when he saw that he had controlled the situation. If they had not been able to sense the position of Uzumaki Misa, they really couldn't catch up with Kyan and others. You guys are pretty good at chasing. You ran at full speed for 30 kilometers. It must be uncomfortable, right? Chiga sneered, looked at the distance between him and Asuma Sarutobi and the others, and sighed in his heart that he was careless. He should have continued to use the Flying Thunder God technique to hurry on. He didn't expect that he had already run so far, but the other party could still catch up. It seems that taking away Uzumaki Misa has touched the other party's reverse scale. Humph, Uchiha Chiga, the underground bounty agency has a reward of 20 million taels for the genius ninja of Konoha. It seems that this bounty will be taken by our Kusagakure. Yingchen said. Oh my god, Chiga, are you so valuable? Asuma Sarutobi heard this and was surprised. The bounty amount of the underground bounty agency is generally proportional to one's strength, and the fact that he can offer a price of 20 million is enough to show Chiga's strength. At this moment, Asuma Sarutobi was greatly shocked and secretly decided in his heart that he didn't have to surpass Chiga in strength in the future, but the amount of the bounty must be higher than Chiga. Is this the time to talk about this? Yuhi Kurenoi gave Sarutobi Asuma a cold look and then shouted at Chiga, Chiga, don't worry about us, run first. Chiga didn't reply, but the opposite Takeomi laughed grimly. It's really a bond that makes people cry, but I heard that you Konoha's ninjas don't like to abandon your companions. Chiga was silent for a while, and his pair of Sharingan scanned back and forth between Takeomi and the 6 Kusagakure ninjas. The Kusagakure ninjas who could keep up with Takeomi's footsteps and rush here together must not be simple stuff. He didn't attack Sarutobi Asuma and others at the first time, probably because he was afraid that Sarutobi Asuma and others would pull Uzumaki Misa to death together in despair. And now is not the time to tangle with this group of ninjas. After all, this is still the vanguard. If the large forces behind arrive, it will be difficult for Chiga and others to run. Without much hesitation, Chiga took out a summoning scroll and threw it into the sky. 200 crows flew out of the summoning scroll and circled in the air. Crow secret technique, shadow thousand crows technique. After Kyan he shouted softly, the 200 crows turned into 2000 crows, a black mass, circling between Kusanagi and Kyan he. Fire style, ghost lantern. Seeing this, Ain Chen formed seals with his hands, and countless fireballs that looked like evil spirits suddenly appeared around him. These fireballs circled in the air, and the crow clones that were separated disappeared after touching the fireballs, while the crows' real bodies were burned to ashes. However, by the time all the crows died, Kanye and the others had long disappeared. Humph. Flying Thunder God technique. I wonder how many times you can use it. Keep chasing. Seeing this, Ain Chen snorted coldly. Although he also wanted to intercept the other party now, they could not be as wealthy as the Land of Earth, who specially developed a barrier to restrain the Flying Thunder God technique, so he could only watch Kanye escape. And as long as the other party keeps holding on to Uzumaki Misa, they will be chased by the Kusanagi. One day and one night passed in the pursuit. Kyan also understood that the other party must have sensed their means, and this means should be on Uzumaki Misa. Kyan checked for a long time and finally found a little strange in Uzumaki Misa's head. There was an inexplicable chakra flowing in it. If it was forcibly removed, it would inevitably cause a chakra riot, which would lead to the death of Uzumaki Misa. And Uzumaki Misa also knew that it was her fault and smiled miserably. You go. Don't worry about me. The Kusanagi won't kill me. Don't worry, it's not the end of the road yet. Kyan shook his head and said nothing more. He just silently restored his physical strength and chakra. Being chased by the Kusanagi like this, Kyan was a little impatient. Since the Kusanagi likes to die so much, he fulfilled their wish. Chapter 131 The counterattack begins. Asuma, Kyonari, Shizune, you three take Misa Uzumaki and hide. Chiga instructed Asuma Sarutobi and the other two while recovering his chakra. You can't do that. If we have to die, we'll die together. Asuma Sarutobi said immediately after hearing that. Yes, we are Konoha's ninjas. It's not right for us to watch our teammates die. Kyonari, Yuhi and Shizune said the same. Although Asuma Sarutobi and the other two didn't understand why Chiga didn't plan to escape, they wouldn't let Chiga face the Kusanagi alone. Seeing that the three of them took out their Kyune and wanted to fight alongside him, Chiga was very touched, but still shook his head and said, I don't need your help. I'm sure I can deal with them, and the next battle is not something you can intervene in. If you participate in the battle, I will have to divide my attention to protect you. That's troublesome. Chiga's meaning was very clear. In this battle, if the three of them participated, they would be a burden to him. But we are a team. Since we are a team, you have to follow the arrangements of me, the captain. Chiga said in a superior tone, and then persuaded, okay, don't waste time anymore. Go hide. I will kill the Kusanagi and the others. Isn't this what you have always wanted, to teach the Kusanagi a lesson? At this time, Uzumaki Misa walked in front of Chiga and stretched out her arm again. Chiga was about to refuse. Unexpectedly, Uzumaki Misa seemed to know Chiga's thoughts and said directly, compared to you, I hope that the Kusanagi will die. Since you are sure to kill them, why not do my part to avenge myself? Hearing this, Chiga looked at Uzumaki Misa silently, and seeing that she had made up her mind, she also laughed and said, okay, in this case, you should have a share of the credit for killing the Kusanagi. I will report this to the third Hokage when I go back. Uzumaki Misa has already said this. If Chiga refuses again, it will seem that he is hypocritical. He originally planned to use emotional points to restore the amount of chakra, but now it seems that he can save it. Since she had made up her mind, Chiga was not one to hesitate, and she bit Misa Uzumaki's arm. HMM. Misa Uzumaki groaned, trying her best to bite her teeth and not make any sound. After all, she could see that Chiga was quite resistant to recovering chakra in this way. If her words had not been well founded, the boy would never bite her. At this moment, she also understood that Kushina had accepted a good disciple. In an instant, Chiga felt an inexplicable energy injected into her body from her mouth. As soon as this energy entered her body, it was transformed into chakra. At the same time, her already exhausted body began to recover gradually. It must be said that Misa Uzumaki's special healing method was indeed outrageous. No wonder the Kyusa shinobi kept chasing her. Chiga, who had recovered to full state, had a gleam in his eyes. Your chakra amount. The moment Chiga let go of her mouth, Misa Uzumaki's feet went soft, and if Shizune hadn't supported her, she would have collapsed to the ground. Misa Uzumaki felt the chakra and vitality she had lost, and her weak eyes were full of horror. This bite almost made her faint. Sorry, Chiga couldn't help but say embarrassedly when she saw Misa Uzumaki's weak appearance. He himself didn't expect that, after returning to his full state, Misa Uzumaki would actually lose so much chakra and vitality. Chiga, who had recovered, shook his neck. Next, it's my stage, you should leave. Seeing Chiga so confident, Asuma Sarutobi also complained. You said it, as if you have killed all the opponents. In fact, after Chiga bit off Misa Uzumaki, they already understood that the crisis was over. After all, Chiga in full state could take them away. At the current distance, it would be no problem to run to the territory of the Land of Fire. And since Chiga still chose to fight the enemy, it means that what Chiga said before was not a joke, and he was really confident in dealing with the Kusanagi. Shadow clone technique. Bang. After a sound of smoke, Chiga summoned a shadow clone. At the same time, Chiga's real body took out a summoning scroll and spread it on the ground. 2,000 crows flew out. The leading crow saw Chiga and Chiga's shadow clone on the ground and instantly understood Chiga's plan. It landed on the shoulder of Chiga's shadow clone. The other 2,000 crows flew into the bushes around them, hiding their bodies with the help of the bushes, waiting for Chiga's instructions. Chiga thought for a moment, and then said to Sarutobi Asuma and the other two, I'll give you a sense of participation as well. Protect my clone, and never let him have any accidents, and don't disturb him. The key to this battle lies in him. Chiga suddenly found that he seemed to be quite good at being a human being. You see, the great contribution of killing the Kusanagi ninja is worth 2S level tasks. If he goes back to report and says that Sarutobi Asuma and the other two have no credit, and that he did it all by himself, it would be very disrespectful to the third Hokage. Now, Sarutobi Asuma has been given some task arrangements, and Sarutobi Asuma's name can be added to the report when he goes back. When the third Hokage saw his son on top, he would be so happy that he would upgrade the merit by 1 level. Ninjas, it's not just about fighting and killing, you also need to be worldly wise. Yes. Sarutobi Asuma and the other two responded in unison. Then, under the leadership of the shadow clone, Sarutobi Asuma and the other three hid in the bushes in the distance. After hiding, the shadow clone began to sit cross-legged, closed his eyes and concentrated, and the same was true for Crow Feather standing on the shoulder of the shadow clone. At the same time, more than a dozen Kusanagi had appeared in front of Chiga. This was the vanguard of the Kusanagi. In fact, the Kusanagi couldn't stand the chase. Every time they caught up with Chiga, they had to run as hard as they could. If they hadn't been able to chase in batches, they would have collapsed from exhaustion. When they saw Chiga, their eyes lit up. There. It's that brat. Don't let him get away again. Catch him. Be careful with the flying thunder god technique. Don't fight him in close combat. The Kusanagi already knew Chiga's general information and knew that Chiga had strong close combat ability. For a moment, shurikens, kunai, and detonating tags were thrown at Chiga. Facing the weapons coming at him, Chiga just sneered and then quickly formed a fire seal with both hands. After the seal was formed, Chiga took a deep breath. His chest bulged, and a large amount of chakra gathered here. Fire style, great fire extinguishment. Then he spit out a large piece of flames like seawater from his mouth to the front. Chapter 132, 20 million strength. The raging flames formed a wave of flames more than 20 meters high, and in just a moment, those shurikens, kunai, and detonating tags were reduced to ashes. and this wave of fire was still powerful, rushing towards the grass ninja. What a terrifying fire escape. Is this the fire escape ninjutsu of the Uchiha clan? It's so powerful. How old is this kid? He can actually release a ninjutsu that I can never perform in my life. This group of grass ninjas were frightened by the fire escape, the great fire extinction, and each of them showed a look of horror on their faces. Come on, if you don't want to die, use water escape to resist. It was not until the high temperature of the flames hit them, and the air was distorted that they reacted. If they were covered by the sea of fire, they would probably be reduced to ashes in an instant like those weapons. Under the command of the leading grass ninja, more than a dozen grass ninjas released water escape to block Kyan's fire escape. Water style, waterfall technique. Water style, water rush wave technique. Water style, water bullet technique. After all, they were not ninjas from a great country, so their strengths were uneven, and the water styles they released were strong and weak. But even so, the water styles released by this group of grass ninjas gathered together, forming a wave more than 20 meters high. The roaring waves swept down. The surging sea of fire rushed over with a scorching heat that swallowed everything. Water and fire collided with each other. The violent collision made the battlefield tremble. The two completely different forces were evenly matched, and for a moment, neither of them could suppress the other. It's so good. Is this really just a B-level fire style? Asuma Sarutobi, who also knew fire style, was also shocked when he saw that it took more than a dozen grass ninjas to resist Chiga's fire style ninjutsu. Water overcomes fire. If they were of the same power, water style would crush fire style, and there would definitely not be such a stalemate. From this point, we can see how proficient Chiga is in fire attribute chakra. This was something he could never compare to. For a moment, he actually had a trace of admiration for Chiga, and he also felt that Chiga might really win the next battle. Even if he really couldn't win, Chiga should be able to take them away from here. Sarutobi Asuma completely put aside his worries and began to joke around. This is the strength that 20 million should be able to exert. Facing Sarutobi Asuma's joke, Yuhi Kurenoi glanced at Sarutobi Asuma with dissatisfaction, and then said, "If you call Chiga 20 million again, I will beat you up." What? Kurenoi, you obviously hated Chiga before, and I often heard you curse him. Why are you defending him now? And if it weren't for his illusion, the two of us would definitely not be like this now, and we would definitely be a lot closer. Sarutobi Asuma looked at Yuhi Kurenoi, whose attitude had changed drastically, and was a little confused. HMPH, I think Chiga has made me more aware of my inner thoughts. We are indeed as close as siblings. Puff. Asuma Sarutobi felt as if his heart was stabbed with a knife, and someone was holding the handle of the knife and stirring it constantly, and his whole heart was stirred into pieces. Shizune on the side listened to the conversation between the two and laughed. Asuma Sarutobi didn't understand the girl's mind at all. When a girl keeps talking about someone, even resentment will ferment. On the battlefield, at the moment when the two ninjutsu intersected, thick water vapor evaporated, and in just a few seconds, it enveloped the battlefield. When the water escape evaporated, the flames gradually went out. The two ninjutsu cancelled each other out, leaving only a thick fog that was pitch black. At this time, about 70 or 80 grass ninjas came. How is it? Have you found that team? Yes, but there is only one person on the other side. That Uchiha Chiga. He is in the fog. Be careful. What are you afraid of? We have so many people now. Why are you afraid of a little kid like him? Hurry up and deal with him, and then go find that woman. She is the most important thing to us. The joining of these grass ninjas boosted the morale of the grass ninjas, and they felt no weakness in close combat. There are nearly 100 ninjas. Even if the opponent has the flying thunder god technique, they can still wear him out. Thinking of this, the group of grass ninjas rushed towards Chiga together. Some of them held kunai, some held giant hammers and long swords, and all kinds of weapons. In the fog, Chiga's hazy and lonely figure was accompanied only by a gust of wind. Just what I want. But Chiga, who was alone and weak, laughed when he saw that the opponent wanted to fight in close combat, opened his Sharingan, and rushed into the grass ninjas holding a gust of wind. The killing began. The Magatama in the Sharingan circulated, and Chiga avoided the enemy's giant hammer attack and slashed the opponent's throat with a backhand. As blood bloomed, Chiga had already withdrawn and left, and came to a certain Kyusa ninja again, and stabbed the Kyusa ninja's heart with a knife again. Clang clang clang, sparks flickered in the thick fog, and the sound of metal intersecting was endless, and from time to time there were shrill screams. Ah. Ah. If there were only one or two screams, it would also show that the battle between Kyusa ninja and Chiga was fierce, but if the screams were continuous, it would be a one-sided massacre. Compared with Chiga, this group of Kyusa ninjas were even less adapted to fighting in the fog. Although there were nearly 100 Kyusa ninjas, it was impossible for them to contact Chiga at the same time. Only one Kyusa ninja fell to the ground and died, and the next Kyusa ninja took over. And every Kyusa ninja who fought with Chiga only felt that his movements were always a beat slower than Chiga's. Although he made a move first, the opponent could always find a loophole and give him a fatal blow. Wind style, strong wind blow. Finally, a grass ninja realized that the fog was not suitable for them to fight and quickly used the wind style ninjutsu to disperse the fog. As the fog dissipated, the scene in the field began to become clear. It was seen that there were nearly 100 grass ninjas, but only more than 60 were still intact. Most of the others died under Kaien's sword, and a few were lying on the ground wailing, and it seemed that they would not live long. Although the ninjas of the grass country are a group of fence sitters, they are in a dilemma between the land of earth and the land of fire. Moreover, they are not as good as the big countries in terms of resources and education. But this country has been in war for many years, and it doesn't care much about life and death. But even so, when seeing Kaien killing his companions like killing chickens, a trace of fear emerged in his heart. This kid has such a strong close combat ability. Why did he dodge all my attacks? Is the Sharingan really that powerful? The grass ninja hesitated. The dead grass ninja lying on the ground let them know that the other party was ridiculously strong in close combat. What are you doing? Catch him quickly. At this time, an angry shout came from behind the Kyusa ninja, and the leader of the Kyusa no Michiru, Takeomi, finally arrived. Chapter 133, Immortal Crow Secret Technique. After hearing the other party stop, Yingchen thought that his men would easily take him down. But he didn't expect that when he arrived, not only was the Konoha ninja not taken down, but his own ninja didn't even dare to step forward. He was immediately furious, and in a few flashes, he came to the front of the Kusanagi. When he saw the corpses on the ground under Kaien's feet, his face became extremely ugly. A bunch of trash. Yingchen gritted his teeth and cursed at the Kusanagi behind him, and then looked at Kaien with murderous eyes and said coldly, "It seems that you already know the role of that woman." Originally, he thought that the other party rescued Uzumaki Misa by accident. After all, if the other party knew the role of Uzumaki Misa, he could have recovered and returned to Konoha village with the Thunder God technique, and he wouldn't have entangled with them for so long. So he breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. At least the people of Konoha didn't know, so even if he couldn't kill Kaien and his group, as long as he brought Uzumaki Misa back, he could continue to hide Uzumaki Misa's healing ability. But now that the other party was able to kill dozens of his men in such a short time, it means that the other party has recovered through Uzumaki Misa. In other words, he can only hide Uzumaki Misa's ability by eliminating all the other parties. If the Uzumaki clan still exists, you would have been wiped out long ago if you treat the people of the Uzumaki clan as mobile blood bags. Kaien said casually without paying any attention to Yingchen's killing intention. "Where is that woman?" Yingchen ignored Kaien, but saw that Kaien was the only one at the scene, so he turned his head and asked the perception ninja beside him. Since the other party did not take action immediately, Kaien was too happy to interrupt with nonsense. "Run away. I just stayed behind to cover the rear." Compared with the previous Kusanagi, the group of ninjas that Yingchen came with were much stronger. Kaien could not rush up like before. As long as Yingchen could entangle him, and the surrounding Kusanagi looked for opportunities to attack, he would not only fail to kill the enemy, but also be beaten to death by the enemy. So Kaien understood that he could not be surrounded again. Ichigo said, "Uzumaki Misa is nearby. It seems that the other party is not trying to delay us and let her escape." "Really?" Yingchen raised his eyebrows, a little confused. Since Kyan has recovered her strength, why doesn't she run away? This kid doesn't think that he can annihilate all the grass ninjas chasing them just because he has recovered his chakra. Thinking of this, Yingchen looked behind him again. All the ninjas who came to chase the Konoha team had arrived, about 300 people. He smiled dumbly and asked Kyan, "Kid, what do you mean by this? Are you ready to die?" "Nothing, I just think that after I go back, I will probably accept my teacher's task and come to you again. It's better to solve it all at once to save trouble." Kyan shrugged and told the truth. After all, if teacher Kushina knew that the other party treated Uzumaki Misa like this, she would be furious. Even if Konoha didn't say anything, she would also contribute money and effort to burn the grass ninjas. As for money, Kyan probably couldn't help, so he could only help with his strength. Since he had to help sooner or later, wouldn't it be better to solve it now? Moreover, he really wanted to see if he could really destroy this group of Kyusa ninjas. Everyone can talk big. Seeing that the other party really dared to say this, Yingchen laughed in anger. "I have more than 300 people here, one by one. You can't handle it with your small body." "More than 300? Are they all here?" Kyan calculated in his mind after hearing this. According to Konoha's information, there are more than 500 ninjas in Kusunomatsu. He has killed about 30 of them, plus there are more than 300 here, which means that most of the Kyusa ninjas have arrived. If he kills all of them here, Kusunomatsu will be dead in name only. The subsequent finishing work will naturally be completed by the ninjas of Kusunoh. Kyan didn't say much, but it stimulated Yingchen's nerves. The extremely natural tone seemed to be saying that the Kyusa ninjas were his meal. "Go, I want his Sharingan as a souvenir." Yingchen was furious, and with a wave of his hand, he was ready to let his men hack to death with swords. At this moment, Chiga put his hands together and placed them on his chest. Sage mode. In an instant, the shadow clone that had been sitting cross-legged in the bushes returned to its original body. A strange and powerful chakra wave emanated from Chiga's body, and red eye shadow appeared on his face. It spread from the eye sockets and stretched to both sides of his cheeks. With his Sharingan, the weirdness was maximized. Sage mode is a state that allows a caster to use natural energy. In this state, Chiga's physical activity is greatly increased. At the same time, he can use natural energy to increase the range and perception of physical attacks, and the power of his own ninjutsu, physical skills, and illusions has also been greatly improved. That is, how is it possible? Impossible. Sarutobi Asuma wiped his eyes in disbelief when he saw the changes on Chiga's face, and then continued to stare at Chiga. He seemed to have an answer in his heart, but he didn't dare to believe it at all. "Asuma, what are you talking about? Do you know what has happened to Chiga now?" Yuhi Kyonari and Shizune were originally surprised by the disappearance of Chiga's shadow clone, but now they heard Sarutobi Asuma's shocking words, and they immediately became curious. The two of them had never heard of the Sage mode. Sarutobi Asuma swallowed hard, recalling the story of the first Hokage fighting Uchiha Madara when his old man was still a child. He had mentioned the mask at the time, and was curious about the Sage mode. "If I guess correctly, it's the Sage mode, and I only heard about it from the old man. I only heard the old man talk about one person who can enter this state." "Who?" "The first Hokage." "What?" Looking at the strange mask on Chiga's face, Yingchen's face changed slightly, and he suddenly had a bad premonition in his heart. In one breath, "I will finish you off." The Magatama in Chiga's eyes spun rapidly, and an invisible force began to spread out from his body. At the same time, all the crows hiding in the lawn began to fly into the air, and two Magatama suddenly appeared in their eyes. "Go. Don't let the crows surround us." When Yingchen saw the crows appear, the sense of crisis in his heart burst directly. While roaring, he was ready to cast ninjutsu to disperse the crows. However, at this moment, Kyan, who was standing in place, clapped his hands suddenly and shouted, "Senjutsu Crow Secret Technique First Movement Hate." After thinking about the name of the skill for a long time, he finally picked it at random. Here I wish you all a happy new year in advance. Chapter 134, The Destruction of the Grass Ninja. Sage Technique Crow Secret Technique First Movement Hate. Along with Kyan's roar, all the crows cried together. In an instant, the grass ninjas felt as if the entire space was stagnant, and then endless darkness enveloped them. Gaga, the ups and downs of the crow's cry made the grass ninjas' nervous nerves begin to tense, and there seemed to be an inexplicable emotion in their hearts. What's going on? Oh no, we are trapped in an illusion. What kind of illusion is this? How come I have never heard of it? I don't know. Solve it. It can't be solved. The low crow's cry brushed past their ears, and the originally noisy grass ninjas began to quiet down unconsciously. A grass ninja laughed inexplicably, as if he saw some beautiful pictures, but before he could continue to laugh with satisfaction, he seemed to see an unbelievable picture. What? The child is not mine. Is it the child of the 50-year-old paralyzed old man next door? I'll chop you. With one slash of the knife, the grass ninja next to him was inexplicably killed and split in half. And this was just the beginning. All the grass ninjas, their heartbeats accelerated, their breathing became rapid, and their emotions got out of control. I'm so hungry. Chicken legs. I like chicken legs the most. The money, all mine, mine. Listening to the inexplicable mumbling of the grass ninja next to him, Yingchen's face changed slightly, and he shouted quickly, "Close your hearing, don't listen to the crows." However, the devil's voice pierced his ears, and no grass ninja was listening to Yingchen's roar. Even the ninjas next to Yingchen looked at Yingchen with a different look. Lord Takeomi, you can take the position of leader of Kusunomichizuru, why can't I? Go to hell, I'll kill you, and I'll be the leader of Kusunomichizuru. Under the influence of this illusion, the darkest and most shadowy side of all Kusunomichizuru's heart was seduced and magnified. These illusions were so real that everyone began to immerse themselves in them and couldn't extricate themselves. The well-trained ninjas, at this moment, were like beasts driven by desire and began to kill each other. You damned rock ninjas, you treat us Kusunomichizuru as dogs, I'm going to kill you all. Kill. 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 Finally, Takeomi also fell into the illusion. His eyes were bloodshot, and he waved his samurai sword and chopped at the Kusunomichizuru. Clang clang clang. Chiga stood in place, blood flowing out of his eyes. This illusion not only requires a lot of chakra to maintain, but also requires the ability of the Sharingan. In the distance, watching the Kusunomichizuru killing each other, Sarutobi Asuma and the other four did not have a gloating expression on their faces, but only a chill. Wow, that's too scary. Sarutobi Asuma didn't know how many times he had been scared today. Shizune also nodded in agreement, and then asked curiously, by the way, we clearly heard the crows cry. Why didn't we fall into the illusion? Are we too far away? Yuhi Kuronoi pondered for a moment, then shook her head and said, it's not just a sound illusion, it also uses the pupil technique of the Sharingan. It's a double illusion. Yuhi Kuronoi, who is quite proficient in illusions, can see a little bit of the trick. The crow's cry is just auxiliary, and the real power is a pupil technique of the Sharingan. This is why those grass ninjas can't stop the invasion of illusions, even if they close their hearing. Hearing Yuhi Kuronoi's explanation, Shizune nodded in understanding. At this moment, the song ended, and all the crows stopped making any sound. The blood of the 400 grass ninjas gathered into a river, and the green grass had turned blood red. Among the corpses, only Yingchen was still standing. As expected of the leader of the Kusunomichizuru, even though he was bewildered by the illusion, his strength was still there. A quarter of the Kusa ninjas were killed by him. However, he himself was not much better, with wounds all over his body, and not much blood was flowing out of the wounds. It seemed that he only had one breath left. Kion did not release his sage mode, and walked in front of Yingchen with the wind. Looking at the Konoha genius ninja in front of him who was only around his waist, Yingchen's eyes were extremely complicated. He really didn't expect that the other party could actually leave all of them Kusa ninjas. At this moment, he regretted it very much. If he hadn't chased Kion, would they not have died? Just when he was about to say something, Yingchen saw a sword light coming, and then he lost consciousness. Is there anyone who is still alive? Please let me know. After getting rid of Yingchen, Kion glanced around and saw that no one moved, and he breathed a sigh of relief. Then the empty chakra in his body and the mental fatigue instantly came over him, directly drowning his consciousness. Chiga. Seeing Chiga fall head first, the four people also exclaimed and ran to Chiga's side. Shizune's face was solemn, and she placed her hands on Chiga's chest, and a green light flashed on her hands. After checking for a while, she breathed a sigh of relief, and then shook her head at Uzumaki-Misa, who had rolled up her sleeves. Shizune explained, "Mrs. Sister, it's okay, Chiga is fine, it's just that the chakra is exhausted." "What about his eyes?" Yuhi Kurenai looked at the blood in the corners of Chiga's eyes and asked worriedly. "I don't know about this, but it shouldn't be a big problem. After all, Chiga won't joke about his eyes." Shizune didn't know what it looked like when the Sharingan was overconsumed, so she could only comfort Kurenai in this way. Asuma Sarutobi saw how worried Kurenai was about Chiga, and his heart ached, but he still agreed. Yes, if she knew that she would go blind, Chiga would have run away with us long ago. Kurenai saw that her two teammates were so comforted, and she felt much better. She carried Chiga on her back and said, "This is the land of grass, and Chiga has fallen into a coma. Let's go back to Konoha quickly." "Yes." The rest of the people also nodded in agreement. As Chiga and others left, a figure slowly emerged from the grass. It was the white Zetsu who was responsible for monitoring Chiga. As Chiga's strength became stronger and stronger, white Zetsu now dared not get too close to Chiga. He looked at the corpses on the ground and sighed, "What a powerful illusion. Fortunately I'm far away, otherwise I might have been exposed. Hey, why are you here too?" Before he disappeared, another figure suddenly emerged and said in surprise. White Zetsu was startled and thought he was discovered by someone. When he turned around, he realized that it was his own people. "You are the Zetsu who has been responsible for collecting information on Kusanagi ninjas, right?" "I'm the Zetsu who is responsible for monitoring Uchiha Chiga." "Oh, I was wondering, how could such a strong Uchiha clan brat not be noticed by Madara-sama?" The white Zetsu who was collecting information heard this and said with a big grin, "A new month, please give me some monthly votes." Chapter 135 Uchiha Madara's competitiveness. As soon as this white Zetsu opened his mouth, a foul smell came, almost knocking out the white Zetsu who was in charge of monitoring Chiga. "What did you eat? Why does your mouth stink so bad?" The Zetsu who was in charge of monitoring Chiga asked with disgust. The white Zetsu of Kusano no Matsu touched his mouth, looking a little unsatisfied, and then perfunctorily said, "Haha, nothing." The white Zetsu who was monitoring Chiga did not ask more questions, but just said, "Uchiha Chiga's strength has exceeded our expectations. I need to report this to Lord Madara. The ninjas of Kusano no Matsu are almost dead. Do you want to go back with me?" "Of course. I was assigned to Kusano no Matsu since I was born, and I have only met Lord Madara once. Intelligence is indispensable to stir up trouble in the ninja world. Therefore, Uchiha Madara created many white Zetsu to monitor every move in the ninja world. Even a small force will have a white Zetsu watching it all the time. It's just that the intelligence collection of such small forces is rarely reviewed personally." "Really? Then you have to be careful. Lord Madara is not easy to talk to. You might be slapped to death by him." I don't want to die yet." "Don't worry, look at my expression. I will take you with me." Okay, after the two white Zetsu exchanged with each other for a while, they sank into the ground. This place is not far from where Uchiha Madara is sleeping. A day later, the two white Zetsu rushed to the dark cave. Lord Madara, it's time to get up and pee." The white Zetsu who was monitoring Chiga called the sleeping Uchiha Madara in a low voice. At the same time, he muttered to the white Zetsu beside him, "Lord Madara is in a bad mood when he wakes up. If you shout loudly, you will be killed. You have to be careful." The white Zetsu of Kusanagi nodded seriously. He hasn't lived enough. Facing the teachings of his predecessors, he must accept them humbly. In the gentle call of white Zetsu, Uchiha Madara frowned slightly and opened his eyes. When he saw the two white Zetsu in front of him, his brows slightly frowned. He had not seen one of them very often, and he could not remember what it was used for. But he had some impression of the other one, which was responsible for monitoring Uchiha Chiga. Uchiha Madara asked the white Zetsu who was responsible for monitoring Chiga in a hoarse voice, "What's wrong? Did Uchiha Chiga encounter any accident?" In the past few years, he has felt more and more distressed, and his body has become more and more decayed. It seems that even with the support of the Outer Path Demon statue, he will not live for a few more years. The successor must be decided. White Zetsu saw that Uchiha Madara had completely awakened and hurriedly said, Madara, Uchiha Chiga just killed more than 400 ninjas of Kusanagi alone. Oh. Uchiha Madara raised his eyebrows when he heard this. If he remembered correctly, Uchiha Chiga was only about 8 or 9 years old. At this age, he could kill so many people. Obviously, his growth rate was a bit amazing. He did not ask for specific details, but just waved his hand and asked the White Zetsu to come closer. Then he placed a hand on White Zetsu's forehead. Instantly, the scene of Chiga fighting Kusanagi appeared in Uchiha Madara's mind. In the scene, Chiga first performed a fire style, Great Fire Slayer, which made Uchiha Madara's eyes flash with surprise. Well, good fire style, it has the style of my past. Uchiha Madara praised lightly. The younger generation of this clan has studied fire style very deeply. When he was Uchiha Chiga's age, he was probably at this level. After seeing Chiga's fire style, Uchiha Madara actually had a thought of competing with Uchiha Chiga. On par? Well, no, this junior is still a little bit behind me. Uchiha Madara thought so, and continued to read. There is nothing good about the Sharingan combined with swordsmanship, to go in and out among hundreds of Kusanagi. In addition, there is fog, so he can do it. Even better than Uchiha Chiga. Barely 80% of my ability when I was a child. The next scene quickly showed Chiga using the Sage mode. Huh? Sage technique? The appearance of this scene completely shocked Uchiha Madara. He didn't expect that after Hashirama's death, he could still see someone learning such a magic. When did Uchiha Chiga learn the Sage technique? Chiga has not left the village since the Chunin exam, so Uchiha Madara's attention to Chiga has slightly decreased. Unexpectedly, he was given a bombshell all of a sudden. Facing Uchiha Madara's question, the White Zetsu who was responsible for monitoring Chiga also scratched his head and said awkwardly, Sorry, Lord Madara, I don't know either. When the other party was practicing, there were crows on the side, and I didn't dare to get too close. Waste, what use is there for you? Uchiha Madara snorted coldly, but there was no extra movement. He could only carefully examine the facial makeup on Chiga's face in the picture. Unfortunately, the next picture was a bit blurry. This White Zetsu seemed to retreat far away after Chiga activated the Sage mode. Why don't you come closer? How can I see clearly from such a distance? Uchiha Madara said coldly. Doesn't this White Zetsu know his age? He is almost 100 years old. How good can his eyesight be? White Zetsu explained carefully. Lord Madara, it's not that I don't want to get closer. The illusion released by Uchiha Chikako with fairy magic is too powerful. If I get too close, I will be fooled. And that illusion will still seduce the deepest desires and hatred in people's hearts. You know, I like singing and dancing the most. If I get fooled by the illusion, I will definitely jump out and dance in front of Uchiha Chikako. Then I will be discovered. Uchiha Madara was speechless after hearing this. White Zetsu is really unreasonable. At this time, the other White Zetsu's eyes lit up, and he ran forward and flattered Uchiha Madara. Madara, look at me, I'm close. Well, that's right, you are the White Zetsu responsible for collecting information about Kusano no Mitsuru. Uchiha Madara heard this, and looked at this White Zetsu with appreciation, and at the same time, remembered what this White Zetsu was used for. Ah, yes. Madara-sama actually still remembers me. It's really an honor for me. The White Zetsu of Kusano no Mitsuru said with a grin. Don't flatter me, come here and let me see. Uchiha Madara waved his hand for the White Zetsu to come over, and said at the same time, since Kusano no Mitsuru is dead, you should stay by my side, and listen to my arrangements. I need a Zetsu like you who is not afraid of life and death, but also wants to collect information. Pushing away the White Zetsu who was monitoring Chiga with one hand, Uchiha Madara put his hand on the White Zetsu of Kusano no Mitsuru. Sure enough, as soon as it entered the mind of this White Zetsu, the picture directly turned into 1080p. This picture made Uchiha Madara very satisfied, and then he began to look at Chiga's face carefully. Although the eyeshadow and facial makeup are different from Hashirama's, it is indeed Sage mode. However, compared to Hashirama, Uchiha Chiga's Sage mode seems to be a little lacking. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel. Mundo fanfic novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 136. The ninja world is in chaos or not. The ninja world sure has the final say. Uchiha Madara is old, and it takes a long time for him to recall some ancient memories, but it is different for his best friend, Hashirama Senju. He can count the hairs on Hashirama Senju. Uchiha Madara soon discovered the biggest difference between Hashirama and Uchiha Chiga in Sage mode. That is, there is no facial mask on Chiga's forehead. That seems to be unique to Hashirama. The screen continued to play, and soon it was time for Chiga to release the illusion. How can the pupil power of 2 Magatama be so strong? Seeing all the grass ninjas fall into the illusion, Uchiha Madara's pale face also stagnated slightly. He saw the illusion launched by Chiga more clearly than Yuhi Kurenai. The first condition is to connect your chakra with the 2000 crows. This is absolutely impossible without a large amount of chakra, but since Uchiha Chiga was able to successfully practice the sage mode, the amount of chakra must not be a problem. Secondly, and the key point, is to distribute your pupil power to the crows. 2000 crows. This is not something that a 2 Magatama Sharingan can do. Those grass ninjas were caught in the illusion through the eyes of crows. Although Uchiha Chiga's eyes were already bleeding tears, one glance was overloaded. The abundant pupil power is definitely a pair of Sharingans that are about to reach 3 Magatama. Uchiha Madara muttered. At this time, he thought of the abnormality of Chiga after awakening the Sharingan. Cheerful? Could it be that the happy awakening method of the Sharingan is more powerful? Chiga's change is definitely contrary to what he knows. At this moment, Uchiha Madara was also confused. It's hard to say, but unfortunately there is not much time left, otherwise I really want to find another Uchiha Jr. to test it. Uchiha Madara sighed, blaming the current material for too little and his own time. Then, Uchiha Madara wanted to continue watching, but unfortunately the originally stable picture began to fluctuate. At this time, Uchiha Madara suddenly remembered that the first white Zetsu was afraid of being exposed by the illusion, and did not dare to get too close. What about this one? Soon, Uchiha Madara knew what this white Zetsu had always wanted to do in his heart. The screen lowered, and then a large mass of indescribable objects appeared in front of Uchiha Madara. More importantly, this screen also had sound. What the hell? Exclamation mark. Uchiha Madara's old face turned black, and his hands were shaking with anger. The white Zetsu of the grass realm silently felt Uchiha Madara's slightly trembling hand, and said intimately, Mr. Madara, you should take care of your body. You are so old, and your mood swings are too serious. You will die suddenly. Pa. Uchiha Madara smashed the head of this white Zetsu with an expressionless face. This action scared the other white Zetsu, and he hid behind tremblingly. Although he was disgusted by this white Zetsu, Uchiha Madara still used his mind in the right way. That is to determine the tool man. Speaking of which, there are 3 very good candidates in this Uchiha clan. Uchiha Chiga, Uchiha Obito and Uchiha Shisu. Let's not talk about Uchiha Chiga for now. Although Uchiha Obito, who is the same age as him, has a weird personality, and is not very strong. But this junior is full of kindness, and love for people from the bottom of his heart. Friendship, family affection, and love. Uchiha Obito has them in his heart. If all of these are transformed into equal hatred, that can simply make the Sharingan rise. The most important thing is that people are stupid and easy to deceive. And Uchiha Shisu, his heart is also full of kindness and love. Not much different from Uchiha Obito. But the biggest problem is time. Uchiha Shisu is too young, and he doesn't have the time to control it. As for Uchiha Chiga, the strength of this junior is growing too fast. Even he feels a little shocked. In fact, with Uchiha Madara's personality, he hopes to control Uchiha Chiga. Fighting against the sky and fighting against people is endless fun. As the Shura of the ninja world, those who want to conquer are always the strong ones who can enter their eyes. And Uchiha Chiga already has this qualification. Only by controlling such a genius can he demonstrate his capacity as the Shura of the ninja world. Unfortunately, in order to ensure that he can realize the ideal world in his heart, Uchiha Madara can only give up his little hobby. After thinking it over, Uchiha Madara finally decided to let Uchiha Obito be the executor of his plan. Zetsu. Uchiha Madara leaned back slightly and said softly. The real body of White Zetsu slowly appeared in front of Uchiha Madara and asked, Lord Madara, what do you want? Increase the monitoring of Uchiha Obito. I want to know everything about him. Uchiha Madara said in a deep voice. Don't you choose Uchiha Chika? He meets your standards and is very strong. Hearing Uchiha Madara's order, the real body of White Zetsu knew that Uchiha Madara had decided to use Uchiha Obito as his agent and immediately asked curiously. Uchiha Chika is indeed good, but his performance after awakening the Sharingan is too weird, and it is not easy to pull him into the darkness. I don't have much time. And to awaken the Mangekyou Sharingan, it still requires strong emotional stimulation. There seems to be no suitable person around him to help him open his eyes. The only one is the Ninetales Jinchuriki, who has been staying in Konoha village, so it is not easy to start. Uchiha Madara said slowly. In fact, Uchiha Chika has a candidate. Yuhi Kurenoi, who is in the same team with him, seems to have feelings for him, said the trembling White Zetsu clone on the side. It's just a one-sided feeling, which is of no use. Uchiha Madara's eyes lit up slightly, and he carefully recalled the scene in his mind, and immediately lost interest. They are all Uchiha clansmen with high looks, and Uchiha Chika is almost more handsome than he was when he was a child. This is also the only place where he, the Shura of the ninja world, admits that he is not as good as Uchiha Chika. God knows if it is the little girl's unrequited love, this little sign is still useless. Forget it, it's easier to just keep an eye on Uchiha Obito. Uchiha Madara said calmly, the ninja world will be in chaos. Understood. Zetsu's real body nodded. He understood that, in order to carry out Uchiha Madara's plan, the ninja world must be in chaos. Only in the chaos of war will there be a chance to attack Uchiha Obito. Just when Zetsu's real body was about to disappear, Uchiha Madara continued, also, find a chance to kill Uchiha Chika. With him around, Uchiha Obito will not be a match. A new month. Please vote for me. This chapter has been reviewed, and a little bit of deletion will not affect it. Chapter 137 Return to Konoha. Chika woke up from his coma. Although he was not bandaged, he felt severe pain all over his body when he moved a finger. He knew that he was like this because of excessive chakra consumption. Chika, you're awake. As if she had noticed Chiga's awakening, Yuhi Kurenoi, who had been guarding Chiga for 2 days, looked at Chiga and suddenly showed a happy expression on her face. Seeing that it was Yuhi Kurenoi, Chiga was slightly stunned. He thought it was Shizune who was taking care of him. Chiga didn't think much about it. With the help of Yuhi Kurenoi, he leaned half of his body against the head of the bed and asked hoarsely, where are we now? Don't worry, we are now in the stronghold on the border of the Land of Fire, and we are surrounded by our own people. Because you are still in a coma, and it is not suitable to travel, so we will bring you here first, and wait for you to wake up, before making a decision. Seeing this, Yuhi Kurenoi poured a glass of water for Chiga while speaking, handed the glass to Chiga, and carefully fed Chiga a sip. After drinking a sip of water to moisten his throat, Kian felt his throat felt a lot more comfortable, and then he asked, how many days have I slept? 2 days. Yuhi Kurenoi said, the medical ninja here has also checked you. It's just excessive chakra consumption. There's nothing wrong with your eyes. It's really scary to say. Your face was covered with blood from your eyes, and we thought you were going blind. At this point, Yuhi Kurenoi patted her little heart with lingering fear. Chiga didn't notice Kurenoi's little move, and just explained, it's okay, it's just that the Sharingan is overloaded. By the way, where are Shizune and Asuma? Shizune is taking care of Uzuma Kimasa. She was bitten by you, and her body was weak, but she has recovered in the past 2 days. As for Asuma, Kurenoi hesitated, and then said, Asuma is probably too stimulated by you, and has been practicing hard. In fact, Asuma didn't fall into practice for this reason. It was all because of what Kurenoi said at the beginning, and she had been taking care of Chiga all the time in the past 2 days, which aggravated his emotional injury. Asuma has already understood that he has no hope at all, so he used hard training to cover up his injured heart. Chiga didn't care when he heard it, but just held the cup and drank slowly. In his heart, he was thinking about the fairy method he had developed before. After all, it was the first time he used it, and he still needed to summarize his experience. Seeing Chiga lost in thought, Kurenoi did not disturb her. She just sat in front of Chiga's bed, holding her chin with both hands, and looking at Chiga quietly. His feelings are indeed quite complicated. In the assessment of the ninja school, Chiga's illusion gave her a big blow. She herself had no good feelings for the Uchiha clan, and that assessment made her hate Chiga even more. And every time she practiced illusion, she would think of the scene where she was killed instantly by Chiga's illusion. People can't stand being talked about. Although the relationship at the beginning was not love, it deteriorated over time. After a long time, Chiga came back to his senses from the summary and noticed that Konoha was still there. He asked in surprise, "Why are you looking at me like this?" Although the two are teammates, they have never been alone together. Chiga already felt very strange that Konoha could take care of him personally, not to mention staring at him like this. Konoha blushed slightly and whispered, "No way." Seeing Konoha lying with her eyes open, Chiga's face froze, and he looked at Konoha straight. Something must be wrong when things are abnormal. This little girl must need his help with something. Facing Chiga, who didn't speak, Konoha was embarrassed and a little shy. Then she found a topic and said, "By the way, your illusion is amazing. And your crows, how did you train them? You can even make the crows cry into music." Hearing this, Chiga suddenly realized that another person was targeting his crows. Considering that they are his teammates, and Chiga's crow population has indeed grown a lot, it is no problem to send some of them for reproduction. He immediately smiled and said, "Okay, I know what you mean. You just want a few crows. No problem." Crows are indeed quite suitable as summoning beasts for ninjas who are proficient in illusions. You have been very hard working these past 2 days. I will use 100 crows, 50 male and 50 female crows as a thank you gift. The music illusion in the crow secret technique requires the use of the Sharingan, so you can't learn it. But I have another illusion called the 100 Crows Funeral, which is also powerful. I will teach you when I get back. He thought carefully. After all, he was their instructor, so he should also teach them some unique secrets. Well, the achievement of being a role model +1. Konoha was slightly stunned, and then she became furious. "I don't need these crows from you!" Exclamation mark. "Besides, since I got you, don't all your crows belong to me?" If she didn't know that Konoha was still a patient, she would have punched Konoha twice. "Who wants your crows?" Konoha ordered Konoha, and then slammed the door and left. "What?" Chiga looked puzzled. "No crows? Then what else do you want?" "Sharingan?" Girls, they are really weird. In the Konoha stronghold on the border of the Land of Fire, Chiga lay dead for another day, and her body gradually recovered. After all, she already had a sage body, so she was much stronger in recovery. After her body recovered, Chiga took her teammates and Miss Uzumaki to Konoha. When she appeared in front of Chiga at the gate of Konoha this time, Chiga finally showed an expression of relief. This time, he went out as the leader of a team, and it was his responsibility to bring his teammates back safely. Fortunately, he did not fail in his mission. The village registration office was full of people, and Chiga could only line up with his teammates and Miss Uzumaki first. At this moment, Minato's voice suddenly came from behind him. "Chiga?" Chiga turned his head and looked over, and also smiled and greeted Minato. "Senior Minato." As he said that, he looked at the 3 people behind Minato. "Kakashi, Obito, Rin, you guys are back too." Chiga nodded to Kakashi first, then looked at Obito and Rin, and saw that the two were not in high spirits, and did not hear what he said. Obito was a lively and active man, and although he was not in a good mood when he saw his uncle, he was not to the point of not saying hello. As for Rin, it goes without saying that she was always very polite. Chiga curiously signaled Kakashi with his eyes. Kakashi shrugged and whispered to Chiga, "The first mission out is a B rank mission, which is too big a blow." Chapter 138 Hurting Each Other. Chiga understood after hearing this. This was probably the first time that Uchiha Obito and Nohara Rin went on an outing. According to Konoha's tradition, the first outing would be a sea level mission, which was not difficult, and the enemies they encountered were not strong, and it would allow the newbies to see blood. As for the B-level mission, the 2 newbies probably dragged their feet and did not perform well. In addition, Kakashi was a sharp-tongued person, and he must have scolded the 2 of them. Although Minato mediated, it would take a while for him to recover. As for whether the mission failed, that's needless to say. Just like their Uchiha class, Minato's class also had Minato to back it up. A B-level mission was not a problem at all. At this time, Sarutobi Asuma, who was also not in high spirits, came over and said impatiently to Uchiha, "Uchiha, hurry up and register. I still have to practice." Uchiha didn't say anything after hearing this. After all, since that battle, Sarutobi Asuma has become this diligent practitioner, as if he was really stimulated by him. Shizune and Kyone, who knew the reason, never explained it. However, Uchiha didn't care, but Uchiha Obito beside him was excited. Although he didn't play much in the B rank mission, the other party didn't know it. What should you do when you are hit? Practice hard and strive not to be a drag in the future? No. Of course. Find someone who has suffered a bigger blow, laugh at him and humiliate him. Only in this way will your mood get better. Moreover, he and Asuma Sarutobi graduated at the same time. One was the last one and the other was the top one. It's like a tit for tat. Their relationship was not very harmonious to begin with. There is no psychological pressure at all when he ridicules. "Hey, isn't this Uncle Asuma? Why do you look so dejected? Did you fail the mission?" Uchiha Obito stepped forward and hugged Sarutobi Asuma and said proudly, "Hey, Asuma, you know, we have carried out B-level missions and successfully completed the missions with my outstanding performance." Asuma has not yet recovered from the disappointment in love, and he is too lazy to pay attention to Uchiha Obito's provocation. As the saying goes, gay friends are only for me. This thing cannot be shared. Seeing Obito and Asuma arm in arm, Kakashi felt an inexplicable jealousy in his heart. If he doesn't save him, he will feel that he will lose something important. He mocked directly, "Ha. Your outstanding performance is the kind that hides behind and throws a shuriken at will, then stands there and cheers." Damn it, Kakashi, you are talking nonsense again. If my shuriken hadn't hit the Cloud Ninja's ass, the grass on your grave would be 3 meters high. Idiot. Kakashi glanced at Obito coldly with his iconic dead fish eyes. If in the past, Obito would definitely start the mutual harm mode with Kakashi when he heard this word. But this time, he had to regain his lost confidence in front of Asuma, so he barely controlled himself, turned around and said to Asuma in a caring tone, "Don't you have any idea of the difficulty of a B-level mission? It's okay, I can explain it to you again. After all, someone can only join a team of Chunin like Uchiha, unlike me, an outstanding graduate, who joins a team of powerful Jonin like Minato. I think, under Uchiha's leadership, you didn't even complete a C-level mission? Oh. Did I say something wrong?" Obito attacked Asuma, and did not forget Uchiha's 1,000 years of murder, and also insulted Uchiha. "Uchiha, it's only been a few days since I last saw him, but his mouth has become much more poisonous. It seems that he has been trained with Kakashi." "Obito, don't talk nonsense. We are returning to the village after completing an A-level mission." At this time, Yuhi Kyonoi couldn't listen anymore and stepped forward a few steps and said, "What? Impossible." Obito looked incredulous. Asuma felt much better when he saw Obito was hit hard and said with a smile, "Don't you have any idea about the A-rank mission? It's okay, I can explain it to you again." Obito's face turned red and he was defeated. Uchiha and Minato didn't bother to care about the grudges between the two teams. When Uchiha was about to introduce Uzumaki Misa to Minato, she saw Minato staring at Uzumaki Misa. Uchiha was slightly stunned and suddenly remembered that Minato paid special attention to Kushina because of her red hair. This made Uchiha doubt Minato's XP. Red and yellow have always been a couple. Could this guy be moved again? Senior Minato, she is Misa Uzumaki, a childhood friend of Kushina sensei. We rescued her from the ninja village of Kusunomi. Uchiha walked to Minato's side and asked in a low voice, "Are you moved by the red hair again? As long as you tell me yes, I will help you to ask for love from Kushina sensei. We are sisters. I understand the dream of many men." Uchiha patted her chest and vowed, "It means that only Minato has opened this mouth, and Kushina will be left to him." Minato's mouth twitched. "What do you mean by that? If I agree, you will sell me out in a flash. Where can I cry?" Seeing that Minato was not fooled, Uchiha felt sorry for a while, and then seriously introduced Misa Uzumaki. Mr. Uzumaki understood from the conversation between Chiga and Minato that the man in front of her was Kushina's boyfriend, and she immediately smiled. "Hello, I'm Uzumaki Misa. Please teach me." "Hello, I'm Namikaze Minato. Welcome to Konoha." Upon hearing that it was really the Uzumaki clan, and that they were Kushina's childhood playmates, and real Kushina's family, Minato also smiled. Minato knew how much Kushina missed her clan. And now that one of them has returned, I think Kushina will be very happy. Thinking of this, Minato suddenly became curious about how Chiga found the Uzumaki clan. It's not that he hadn't looked for them before, but after the extermination of the clan, the people of the Uzumaki clan were basically extinct, and there was very little news about this in the ninja world. Just when he was about to ask Chiga, he felt that Chiga, who was close to him, was a little strange. "Chiga, you seem a little weak." After carefully observing Chiga's face, he felt that it was a little pale. Minato immediately laughed. "An accident happened." Although this was a question, the tone was very affirmative. "It seems that the root cause of our previous team's problems has been confirmed." Kakashi also added a knife. Chiga narrowed his eyes, looking at the two people's smiles. If he was not in poor physical condition, he really wanted to go up and stab them. At this time, it was Chiga's turn to register in the village. For the time being, Minato and Kakashi were recorded in the small notebook, and they would be avenged when they had the chance in the future. Chapter 139, The Fuse of the Third Ninja World War. After entering the village with Mr. Uzumaki showed an excited expression on her face. After all, it had been 10 years, a whole 10 years, without any news from her own people. And now she was going to see her own people, and they were old friends. It would be a lie to say that she was not excited. Chiga didn't really want to hit Mr. Uzumaki, but she still said, "Sorry, Teacher Kushina's identity is a bit special. If you want to see her, you still need the consent of the third Hokage." Although she was a member of the Uzumaki clan, she was an outsider after all, and it was impossible for her to contact the village's Jinchuriki as soon as she entered the village. Chiga could take Mr. Uzumaki directly to Kushina, but the Anbu who was monitoring Kushina would never let a stranger get close to Kushina. This was the bottom line. And with Kushina's temper, she would probably cry with excitement after seeing her people. She would not think about her identity as a Jinchuriki, which would inevitably conflict with the Anbu. Chiga didn't need to cause trouble for Kushina, so she took Mr. Uzumaki directly to the Hokage's office. Just let the third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen arrange it. After seeing Chiga and others come in, Sarutobi Hiruzen first glanced at Sarutobi Asuma. Seeing that Sarutobi Asuma was not missing any limbs, he was relieved. Then he saw Uzumaki Misa. Faced with this sudden surprise, Sarutobi Hiruzen was so happy that he almost jumped up. "You know, the people of the Uzumaki clan are the most suitable to serve as the Ninetales Jinchuriki. Even if the Ninetales has been sealed in Kushina's body. But no one can guarantee that Kushina will not have an accident. Now there is one more Uzumaki clan, which is equivalent to one more insurance. And this is still the simplest use. Kushina already has Minato, and the two of them will enter the grave of marriage in a few years. By then, they will have 10 or 8 children, and the number of bloodlines of the Uzumaki clan will directly increase several times. And Uzumaki Misa can also combine with the men in the village to strengthen the Uzumaki clan. Hundreds of years later, Konoha village will have another blood family. Although this plan takes a long time, can't an old man like him have a dream? Chiga slowly recounted the process of the mission. Hearing that most of the ninjas of Kusunomi died at the hands of Chiga, Sarutobi Hiruzen was surprised and laughed. Kusunomi was originally a watchdog of the land of Earth. Now that the dog has been killed, the third Hokage can only send the rock ninja to watch the dog himself. Thinking of this, Sarutobi Hiruzen liked Chiga more and more. At the same time, he had the same idea as Minato and Kakashi. Chiga is indeed an accident maker. As long as he exists, accidents will inevitably occur in the mission. And these accidents are all in a good direction. Sarutobi Hiruzen said that this kind of accident can happen more often. Well, I have to think carefully about which bastard in the ninja world has pissed me off recently. Sarutobi Hiruzen continued to listen to Chiga's report and soon noticed that, in order to increase the merits of Sarutobi Asuma, Chiga had made artistic processing. As a battle-hardened Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen would not understand the key. How could his silly son participate in the battle of 400 Kusanagi? While secretly sighing at Chiga's understanding, he waved his hand and added 3 S-level mission rewards to Chiga's class. 2 S-level missions were for Chiga to kill the Kusanagi ninja, and 1 was for Chiga to bring back Uzumaki Misa. This was a member of the Uzumaki clan, which undoubtedly gave the Ninetales Jinchuriki one more candidate. After leaving the Hokage's office, Chiga went to find Kushina and told her about Uzumaki Misa. Hearing about her old friend, Kushina didn't care about greeting Chiga for a while and ran to the Hokage's office in a hurry. Chiga returned to his home and began to prepare to rest for a while. A few days later, the news that a member of the Uzumaki clan joined the village spread. This incident had no effect on ordinary ninjas, but for the top leaders of Konoha, it was a good item for fighting for power. Especially knowing that Uzumaki Misa was a member of the Uzumaki clan with extremely rare healing abilities, they seemed even more eager. The Uzumaki clan has been destroyed, and it is impossible for them to become a clan again in a short time. If they can pull the people of the Uzumaki clan into their own camp, it means that they have a chance to compete for the next generation of the Ninetales Jinchuriki. Kyan did not pay much attention to this, because he knew that as long as Kushina existed, the top leaders of Konoha would not dare to conduct inhumane experiments on Misa Uzumaki. And just when the top leaders of Konoha were fighting for power, because of Misa Uzumaki, a fuse event that triggered the Third Ninja World War was about to appear. In the sand village of the Wind Country, in a dark laboratory. Compared with Orochimaru's high-tech laboratory, this laboratory only had the remains of corpses and various puppets. A naked corpse was placed on the test bench. The seemingly complete corpse had joints all over. It had obviously become a puppet. At this time, Scorpion of the Red Sand, who had suffered from Kyan, placed the last puzzle piece of the puppet on it with an expectant look on his face. Then, he spread chakra lines from his 5 fingers and connected them to the puppet. Under his control, the puppet slowly floated into the air. Then the puppet opened its eyes, opened its 2 palms, and a 2-meter long bone knife stretched out from its palms. Perfect, this is art. Scorpion of the Red Sand admired it carefully. Looking at the bloodline boundary revealed by the experimental product in front of him, he knew that his human puppet had finally been successfully developed. He couldn't help but smile. Not bad, not bad. It actually preserved the bloodline boundary of the deceased before his death. You are indeed a well-deserved genius puppet stylist of the Wind Country. At this moment, a voice suddenly came from behind Scorpion of the Red Sand. Who is it? Scorpion of the Red Sand was shocked, and while turning around suddenly, his 5 fingers trembled rapidly. Under his control, the bone knife in the puppet's hand suddenly grew and stabbed in the direction of the sound. Swish. The slender and sharp bone knife did not hit the enemy, but directly sank into the wall of the laboratory. The bloodline of the Kagura clan is really scary. If it pierces me, I will be dead. The voice came from behind Scorpion again, making Scorpion's face more solemn. He stopped attacking and turned around to look at the white Zetsu who appeared in front of him, wearing a black robe and a spiral mask on his head. Scorpion said coldly, "Who are you?" "It doesn't matter who I am. What's important is that I came here to help you achieve your wish." Scorpion. Chapter 140 Deal done. Help me fulfill my wish? Upon hearing this, Scorpion laughed, then looked at the tightly wrapped white Zetsu and asked, "Then, I would like to ask you, do you know what my wish is?" White Zetsu laughed grimly, then slowly walked towards the human puppet made of the corpse of the Kagura clan that was still floating in the air. After taking a closer look, he said, "The corpse vein of the Kagura clan seems to be a little worse than the magnetic escape of the third Kazakage, isn't it?" Hearing this, Scorpion's pupils suddenly shrank. Making the third Kazakage into a human puppet was his secret, but he didn't expect that the other party actually knew it. He could tell the secret in his heart so easily. It seems that the other party has a lot of information about him, which undoubtedly requires a long time of surveillance to complete. Maybe the other party knows exactly what underwear he wears every day. When he thought that his every move was under the surveillance of the other party, Scorpion revealed endless murderous intent. Seeing that his words had irritated Scorpion, White Zetsu quickly jumped away from the human puppet, waved his hands and said, don't get excited, I'm here to help you. Do you still want to make the third Kazekage into a human puppet? You know, without my help, it would be difficult for you to kill the third Kazekage. It seemed that the latter sentence touched Scorpion, and the killing intent that had been brewing for a long time was not carried out. Scorpion said coldly, who are you? White Zetsu was relieved to see that the other party was not going to take action. Although this White Zetsu clone was a rare fighting White Zetsu, and its strength was also above the current Scorpion. But White Zetsu came to Scorpion to complete the task assigned by Uchiha Madara. If they fought, the task would basically fail. Facing Scorpion's question, White Zetsu casually said, you can call me a Fei. Scorpion knew it was a fake name as soon as he heard it, but the other party deliberately concealed it, and his strength seemed very strong, so he was not sure to deal with it. He could only let the other party talk nonsense. Moreover, what the other party said was also true. The third Kazekage was the strongest Kazekage in history, and he also mastered the magnetic escape method to restrain puppets. As for the strongest in history, how much water was mixed in is unknown. But compared to the third Hokage being the strongest Hokage in history, it is definitely less than SpongeBob who sucked up an ocean. Moreover, Scorpion of the Red Sand had already assassinated the third Kazekage in secret. Looking at the entire ninja world, there are too many people who go to extremes, and Scorpion of the Red Sand can barely be considered one of them. The death of his parents is an eternal pain in his heart. It is understandable to hate Konoha and Hatake Tsukumo. But it is unreasonable to hate the third Kazekage. This is also one of the reasons why he insisted on making the third Kazekage into his own puppet. After thinking for a long time, Scorpion of the Red Sand asked, then, what is the price? Scorpion of the Red Sand knew that the other party would definitely not help him for no reason. There must be some conditions. Finally, I'm getting to the point. White Zetsu said, I want you to kill Uchiha Chiga. Uchiha Chiga? The Chunin who treasures crows. Upon hearing this, Scorpion of the Red Sand also remembered Chiga and subconsciously glanced at his transformed left arm. It has been almost 2 years since this happened, and if the other party hadn't mentioned it, he would have really forgotten it. Scorpion of the Red Sand looked at the other party with a strange expression and asked, I'm curious, with your ability, it seems that there is no problem dealing with Uchiha Chiga. Scorpion of the Red Sand understood that, since the other party could find out everything about him, he must have a clear grasp of the information about Uchiha Chiga. Information is very important in the ninja world, and the other party's strength is not bad. There is no reason why he can't deal with Uchiha Chiga. Facing Scorpion of the Red Sand's contempt, White Zetsu laughed and said, oh, your information seems to be outdated. But that's true. After all, Konoha has concealed the latest information, so it's normal for you not to know it. Then I'll tell you the information I know. As he said that, he told Scorpion of the information about Chiga's 400 Kusanagi. What? Scorpion was also surprised when he heard this. When he fought with Chiga, he admitted that Chiga was quite strong, but if they fought seriously, Scorpion was still confident that he could kill Chiga. But only 2 years have passed, and the other party can actually deal with 400 grass ninjas alone. This growth rate is too exaggerated. Why are you scared after hearing that the other party is so strong? White Zetsu provoked. Humph. Scorpion snorted coldly. At this time, he was only a teenager of 15 or 16 years old, and of course he couldn't stand such stimulation. And he did suffer from Chiga before, and Chiga was also on his revenge list. I agree to this deal, but the premise is that you need to help me deal with the third Kazekage. Of course, if you use this puppet of the Uchiha clan to cause trouble for Uchiha Chiga, you will die. White Zetsu saw that the other party agreed and immediately jumped happily. If you keep talking nonsense, I will kill you. Negative emotions from Scorpion. Emotion value plus 20. Kyan, who was lying dead at home, was suddenly stunned. He hadn't received the emotional value of the Red Sand Scorpion for a long time. This sudden arrival really made him curious. Kyan thought about it in his heart. Although he broke one of the Red Sand Scorpion's arms, the other party only continued to provide him with emotional points in the first few months. Later, there was basically no more. Why did the red sand scorpion think of him for no reason? Could it be that Guyan thought of a possibility? The cause of the Third Ninja World War was the disappearance of the Third Kazakage of the Wind Country. And it was the red sand scorpion who caused the disappearance of the Third Kazakage. It seems that the other party is preparing to attack the Third Kazakage and then seek revenge on him. Guyan thought that this was the only possibility. The strength of the puppeteer depends on the puppet. After obtaining the Third Kazakage, the strength of the red sand scorpion will definitely reach the level of Kage. It is really a powerful threat. However, there are tall people to support the sky when it falls. The revenge for killing one's father is definitely greater than the revenge for losing an arm. And now Hatake is still alive. So if Scorpion wants to take revenge, he will first look for Hatake, or at worst Kakashi. Thinking of this, Chiga lay down again. It was a rare time for him to have some free time, and he really didn't want to move. Chiga, unfortunately, things didn't go as he wished, and before he could continue lying there, Kushina's call came from the door. Chiga stood up helplessly and looked out the window. After Kushina called out, she walked in. Teacher Kushina, why are you here today instead of going shopping with your girlfriend? Chapter 141 Salted Fish Chai. You're still taking Misa shopping? As soon as Kushina came in, she said angrily, according to the one-eyed dragon, Misa must be sent to the route for brainwashing before she can be released. Oh, that old guy only has this trick. He might as well pay more attention to his subordinates. Chiga laughed when he heard it. Since that experiment, Chiga often looks for lone root ninjas to experiment with. Although he can't do illusions at the level of Katamatsukami, he has also made some achievements. It is no problem to make the ninjas of the route obey orders in a short period of time. Therefore, in the 1.5 years in the village, Chiga has hooked up with Pa. He has planted illusions on more than 10 root ninjas. In that case, Teacher Kushina, how come you still have time to come to me? Do you want our Uchiha clan to help? This is probably adding fuel to the fire. Chiga shook his head and said that if the Uchiha clan were involved in this matter, it would only be more troublesome, and even Sarutobi Hiruzen, who originally supported Kushina, would oppose it. No, I just came to complain to you. Kushina heard that. Her anger turned into a smile. Chiga rolled her eyes at Kushina, then said, then the problem is solved. Well, I handed Misa to Sister Tsunade. She is currently Sister Tsunade's personal disciple. Kushina said. This is really a good idea. It is indeed difficult for Kushina to withstand the pressure from the Konoha level alone, even with the help of Sarutobi Hiruzen. But if it was Tsunade, it would not be Kushina who had pressure, but the Konoha level. Tsunade is the granddaughter of the first and second Hokage. And with such a legitimate reason of training a medical ninja, no one can say anything wrong. The Konoha level had no choice but to hand this person from the Uzumaki clan to Tsunade. Why do I feel that Lady Tsunade's decision to take Uzumaki Misa away is not just as simple as teaching Uzumaki Misa medical ninjutsu? Although Chiga felt that Tsunade accepted Uzumaki Misa for Kushina's sake, she always felt that Tsunade had other purposes. Tsunade is addicted to gambling and likes to get drunk. She has always relied on Shizune to take care of her life. Now that Shizune has become a ninja, she doesn't have that much time. Chiga guessed that Tsunade just wanted to find someone to take care of her daily life, or for free. After solving the identity and belonging issues of Uzumaki Misa, Kushina came to Chiga as soon as possible. Others may think that Chiga found Uzumaki Misa by accident. As long as she knew, Chiga must have known that Uzumaki Misa was in the Land of Grass, so she specially accepted the mission of the Land of Grass. Chiga, I should have brought Misa with me to thank you, but Misa still needs to go through a lot of procedures, so she can't come, so I have to come first. Chiga, on behalf of the Uzumaki clan, I thank you for saving Misa, Kushina said, wanting to bow to Chiga to express her gratitude. Chiga hurriedly stepped forward, supported Kushina, and said, Teacher Kushina, you don't have to do this. This is what a disciple should do. After saying this, fearing that Kushina would insist on bowing to express her gratitude, Chiga continued, speaking of which, I'm already late. I should have gone to look for her after the Chunin exams. Otherwise, Senior Misa wouldn't have suffered so much. Kushina heard this, and a rare murderous intent appeared in her eyes. When she saw the bite marks on Mr. Uzumaki's body, she was so angry that she almost let the Ninetales break the seal. When their country of whirlpools was still there, which country's ninja dared to treat their Uzumaki clan like this? Even if the country is destroyed now, the people of the Uzumaki clan will never let others bully them for nothing. After hearing that her disciples had dealt with all the opponents, Kushina could only grit her teeth and secretly feel that those bastards got away with it. Well, Chiga, since you don't accept my thanks, let me treat you and your teammates to a big meal. Okay, this is possible. Chiga smiled and agreed. Kushina didn't say much about the issue of Uzumaki Misa, but just looked at Chiga curiously. By the way, why do you feel so decadent recently? I have used up all my chakra. I have to rest for a while. Chiga said perfunctorily. In fact, Sarutobi Hiruzen waved his hand and gave him 3S level task rewards. Each task also has 3 million taels, a total of 9 million taels. With so much money, Chiga suddenly felt that he had achieved financial freedom. Once he had money, he became a lot lazier. Kushina rolled her eyes at Chiga. She knew Chiga well. Sometimes he was just too lazy. Then she asked, do your 3 teammates have any objections? They are so happy. Chiga said proudly. Huh. Kushina looked at Chiga in confusion. Chiga smiled and said, I handed them over to Minato senpai. Compared to me, Minato senpai is really good at teaching people. They have made great progress in the past few days. Ah. No wonder Minato didn't come to see me for several days. I thought that guy had gone out on a mission. I didn't expect that you treated him as free labor. Hearing this, Kushina looked at Chiga angrily. Teacher Kushina, you are blaming me wrongly. I'm doing this for the good of Minato senpai. You keep making it up. I want to see what you can say. Kushina sneered. Chiga explained innocently, Teacher Kushina, since Mr. Uzumaki came to Konoha, you and Mr. Uzumaki have been together for almost 24 hours. Even if Senior Minato wants to be intimate with you, it is impossible. I can't kiss and cuddle with you in front of Mr. Uzumaki, can I? He complained to me about this, and I asked him to guide Asuma and the others for me, in order to prevent him from missing you too much. Hearing this, Kushina pointed at herself and said in disbelief, so, I have to blame myself for this? Yeah. Chiga nodded. Kushina thought Chiga was shirking responsibility, but after thinking about it carefully, it seemed that it was really her problem, and she immediately grabbed her hair in annoyance. You still have time to find Minato now. He is in the small woods outside the Uchiha clan, where we often go. Chiga said. Okay. Kushina hadn't seen her boyfriend for a long time, and she really missed him a little, and hurriedly wanted to get up and look for him. But when she stood up, she suddenly remembered that she came here, not just to thank Kyan. She sat down again immediately, and then slapped her hands on the floor. In an instant, an invisible seal enveloped Kyan and Kushina. Chapter 142 Meeting with Kyuubi. When Kyan saw Kushina's action, he immediately understood that Kushina was going to talk about the Ninetales. He spoke first. Teacher Kushina, was the communication with the Ninetales unpleasant? Kushina nodded awkwardly and said distressedly, that guy is much more stubborn than I thought. I tried my best to talk, but it just wouldn't tell me its name. I can't help you with this. Kyan said doubtfully. The perfect Jinchuriki needs the tailed beasts and Jinchuriki to live in harmony. In this regard, Kyan can easily do sabotage. You really can't help, but you forgot that Uchiha Madara in your family has controlled the Ninetales. Kushina heard this, leaned in front of Kyan and whispered. Kyan tilted his head and asked doubtfully, so, I just want to know if Uchiha Madara left you some information about the Ninetales. After all, the Ninetales guy refuses to say anything, and it's hard for me to move forward. Kushina stated her purpose. It seems that she also knows that everything is difficult at the beginning. For the Ninetales, who has no information at all, Kushina can only use other means to understand the Ninetales' temper. Then you have found the wrong person. Do you think that with Uchiha Madara's personality, he will have the heart to understand the Ninetales that he easily controls? And didn't you get the information about the Ninetales from Mito-sama? Chiga remembered that Uzumaki Mito seemed to have reached a reconciliation with the Ninetales. Logically, some information about the Ninetales should be told to Kushina. Hearing this, Kushina explained helplessly. Hey, when I heard that I was the next Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, my mood fell to the bottom. How could I ask Mito-sama about the Nine-Tails? Chiga rolled her eyes at Kushina, but also understood that Kushina seemed to be really helpless. The main reason was that both Kushina and the Nine-Tails had bad tempers and would quarrel after a few words. Lack of an opportunity to start understanding each other. After thinking for a while, Chiga asked, Teacher Kushina, can I go in and see the Nine-Tails? Huh? You want to enter my body? Kushina asked in surprise. Chiga looked at Kushina silently. Fortunately, Senior Minato didn't hear this, otherwise he would have died in bed without knowing when. Kushina stretched out her hand to Chiga and said, okay, hold my hand and I'll unseal it a little bit. After Chiga grabbed Kushina's arm, Kushina pressed her other hand on her abdomen and slightly unsealed it. Inside Kushina's body, Chiga's spirit condensed out. He looked around and then looked at his feet. All around was a pale pink void, and under his feet was a pool of water with no boundaries. The water surface emitted ripples as Chiga walked. TSK, this sealed space is too jelly. Compared to the dark and damp cage inside Naruto Uzumaki, Kushina's is like a resort. He looked up and noticed that there was a huge disc floating in the air. On the disc was the nine-tailed fox. At this moment, the nine-tailed fox was placed in the shape of a big character, with a small stump inserted on its sturdy limbs. That was not all. There were countless golden chains wrapped around its body, firmly fixing it on the disc. Oh, this way of tying is not so outrageous even in restricted movies. Senior Kushina is really good at playing. He complained. Tomato, do you want to ask my name again? Go away, my name is not something you, a little girl, can know. The nine-tailed fox felt someone coming in and thought it was Kushina, so he opened his mouth with Kushina's most hated nickname. He knew it was just like that, not to mention communication. As soon as Kushina came in, she gave the nine-tailed fox a set of combo punches, which was already considered Kushina's restraint. The nine-tailed fox on the disc opened his eyes when he saw that the person who came in didn't speak. However, when it saw that the person who came in was not Kushina, it immediately let out a huge roar. Damn Kushina, who allowed you to bring people in? As the most powerful existence among the tailed beasts, the nine-tails still has a lot of face. It would be fine if it was seen by Uzumaki Kushina, the instigator, that it was tied up like this. But if it was seen by an outsider, or even a little kid, infinite shame would suddenly surge in its heart. The deafening roar echoed in the space, and the water on the ground also rippled back and forth. Chiga scratched his ears and complained, I have to say, you are still so energetic even when tied up like this. It seems that you are also enjoying this treatment, Ninetales. Negative emotions from Kurama, emotion value plus 80. Little kid, are you looking for death? The Ninetales' murderous intent surged, staring at Chiga intently, then sniffed, as if it had noticed Chiga's identity, and began to struggle frantically again. You are a brat of the Uchiha clan, a born evil Uchiha, I will kill you. And that damn Uchiha Madara, when I get out, I must find his body and grind it to dust. Negative emotions from Kurama, emotion value plus 90. TSK. The nine-tailed fox probably bears a grudge against Uchiha Madara, and is quite familiar with the aura of the Uchiha clan. Just a sniff will tell that Chiga is a member of the Uchiha clan. Be quiet, stinky fox. At this time, Kushina also came in, and seeing that the nine-tailed fox was struggling, she asked Chiga, what's the matter, did you provoke it? No, it just became like this after it found out that I was from the Uchiha clan. By the way, didn't it know that teacher Kushina accepted a disciple from the Uchiha clan? Chiga asked curiously. Judging from the attitude of the nine-tailed fox, it seemed that it was really the first time he saw him. But he remembered that when the nine-tailed fox was in Uzumaki Naruto's body, it could sense information from the outside world. Of course I don't know. I have strengthened this sealing technique several times. If I didn't want to communicate with it, it wouldn't even be able to speak. Kushina said proudly. Chiga suddenly realized that it was right. The Uzumaki clan had the innate chakra that could suppress the tailed beasts, and they also knew various sealing techniques. As a master of sealing, it couldn't be easier for Kushina to improve the sealing technique. I think the pink sky and the clear and calm water were probably created by Kushina. Compared with Naruto, Kushina's control over the Nine Tails is much stronger. Kushina can not only seal the Nine Tails unbreakably, but she can even forcibly borrow the Nine Tails power. It can be said that, if Kushina hadn't been weak after giving birth, Obito would never have been able to get the Nine Tails out of trouble. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 143, Conquering the Nine-Tailed Fox. Don't worry, this guy can only roar at the moment and can't do anything else. As if afraid that Chiga would be scared, Kushina assured Chiga. And, after your advice, although I can't become a perfect Jinchuriki, but, Kushina said, raising her hand. In an instant, Chiga saw the scarlet chakra in the Nine-Tails body flowing along the golden chain to Kushina's body. Kushina smiled proudly and boasted to Chiga, although it doesn't agree, since it lives in my body, it still needs to pay a little rent. Awesome, teacher Kushina. Chiga was also surprised when she saw this. Compared to Uzumaki Naruto, who can only get the Nine-Tails chakra by relying on the Nine-Tails charity, Kushina is much more powerful. The rent is robbed, and it has to be paid. However, this kind of strong borrowing also has a disadvantage, that is, Kushina will be eroded by the Nine-Tails chakra. In the long run, Kushina will also be changed by the Nine-Tails chakra. Teacher Kushina, it will be very dangerous if you do this for a long time, and it will only make your relationship with the Nine-Tails more and more strained. In this regard, Kion had to strike back. Hearing Kion's words, Kushina looked up at the Nine-Tails, and it was really as Kion said. The murderous intent on the Nine-Tails fox face was as real as substance, and he said coldly, damn woman, one day I will eat you alive. Kushina retracted her hand and returned the chakra to the Nine-Tails, but this did not reduce the Nine-Tails' murderous intent. She asked Kion distressedly, what should I do? Mouth escape. You love to influence it. That's easy for you to say. Kushina rolled her eyes when she heard it. Grandma Mito had said something similar before, but unfortunately she always had a bad temper and didn't have this patience. Seeing this, Kion sighed helplessly, helping people to the end, sending the Buddha to the west. If you want Kushina to become a perfect Jinchuriki, it seems that you can only teach her hand in hand. Don't worry, let me teach you, teacher Kushina, and I guarantee that you and the Nine-Tails will reach a consensus. You. Stop it. Kushina looked at Chiga with disdain. She knew her own disciples very well. This guy absolutely believed in the principle that the truth comes out under the sword. If you listen to him, it's probably something like, if you don't beat him for 3 days, he will tear the roof off the roof, and if you stick him, he will be a filial son. Teacher Kushina, I'm telling the truth. Seeing that Kushina didn't believe it, Chiga said bluntly, first of all, the Nine-Tails has a sense of malice, so you must completely abandon your hatred for the Nine-Tails in your heart and treat it as a friend with all your heart. Hey, you know a lot about the Nine-Tails. Didn't you say that your clan has no information about the Nine-Tails? Kushina looked at Chiga in surprise. She only discovered this after being with the Nine-Tails for so long. But how did Chiga know it? Well, I want to say that the legendary Six Paths sage told me in a dream. Teacher Kushina, do you believe it? Chiga explained awkwardly. TSK. Kushina's face was full of contempt. You might as well just say that he is a gay who is less than 1.8 meters tall. But she did not pursue it. In her opinion, Chiga must have heard the information about the Nine-Tails from some high-ranking officials in the Uchiha clan. And the only source of the information about the Nine-Tails for the Uchiha clan to know is Uchiha Madara, who has controlled the Nine-Tails. Such secret information must be kept highly confidential in the Uchiha clan. Chiga can say it now, which is considered a betrayal of the family for her teacher. If Chiga knew what Kushina was thinking, Chiga could only say, Teacher Kushina, you have a really big imagination. Ahem. Let me continue. Since you want to treat the nine-tailed fox as a friend, you should always communicate with it more. The nine-tailed fox is also an old guy, and he is most afraid of loneliness. You didn't talk to it for 10 or 8 years before. anyone would have complaints. You have to let it vent its resentment first, and then communicate properly. So at the beginning, Teacher Kushina, you still need to endure it, and you can't let your temper do it. Both of them avoided the question of how Chiga knew the information about the nine-tailed fox. Yeah, that makes sense. Go on. Kushina put herself in the shoes of the nine-tailed fox and felt it, and it was indeed the case. Chiga continued, then, we have to start with the nine-tailed fox's personality. As far as I know, the Six Paths sage said in a dream that the nine-tailed fox has a bit of a tsundere attribute. So Teacher Kushina, you need to. Wait, what is a tsundere? Hearing this word, Kushina asked a little curiously. Tsundere probably means to cover up shyness by acting tough, arrogant and hypocritical. Although the words are sharp, they are very considerate and gentle in their hearts. Chiga explained, and then said with a smile, in fact, you can refer to the people of the Uchiha clan for this attribute. Most of them are of this type. Really? Kushina was surprised, and then carefully recalled Mikoto's behavior when she was with Mikoto. Haha, you know what, it seems that Mikoto is really like this. Kushina laughed, and then looked at Chiga strangely, and said with a smirk, Chiga, it seems that you are the same. How could I have such a rubbish attribute? Kushina. I understand tsundere, no wonder I can't get along with the Ninetails. Ninetails. Can you two avoid me when discussing how to attack me? Chiga taught Kushina the strategy of attacking the Ninetails, which made Kushina hope to become a perfect Jinchuriki again, while the Ninetails who listened to it looked confused. Why does this evil Uchiha brat know me so well? Did Uchiha Madara ask all of its secrets when he controlled it with the Sharingan? If not, was it really the Six Paths sage who came to him in a dream? Compared to Kushina, Kyuubi believed Chiga's nonsense more. After all, the Six Paths sage really existed, and it was he who divided the 10 tails into 9-tailed beasts. If there is anyone who knows them, the Six Paths sage must be one of them. But the question is, how can the Six Paths sage come to him in a dream when he is just an evil Uchiha brat? Exclamation mark. Kyuubi didn't have time to think about this question now, but thought that if this brat said something, Kushina might be able to capture it like this. As a last resort, Kyuubi had to interrupt Chiga and Kushina, and it roared angrily, "Two bastards, do you really think I don't exist? I actually forgot that the object of our discussion is still here." Chiga, who was so engrossed in talking, finally realized that the two of them actually said this in front of Kyuubi. Chapter 144, Deal with the Nine-tailed Fox. Kushina didn't care. She glared at the Ninetails with dissatisfaction. "Why are you yelling? If you yell again, I will research a sealing technique to seal your mouth. People have to bow their heads under the eaves." The Ninetails didn't retort. Over the years, it has been sealed tightly by Kushina, and it is difficult to even sense the outside world. If its mouth is sealed again, this old fox will really go crazy. However, there is a piece of information that it still wants to confirm, so it can only ask reluctantly. "Kushina, has the four tails been captured by you humans and brought to the village?" The perception of the tailed beasts is much more acute. Even though Kushina has sealed the nine tails tightly, it can still sense that the four tails has appeared in Konoha. Yes, the four tails did come to Kimura, but it has been 2 years, and it has been exchanged back to the land of Earth. Kushina nodded and thought of what Chiga said before, so she released her kindness and asked the Ninetails kindly, "Ninetails, are you lonely? Do you want to communicate with other tailed beasts?" The Ninetails heard the words, and the pupils of the Ninetails moved slightly and almost nodded in agreement. Since the first generation of Hokage divided the tailed beasts to the major countries, the communication between the tailed beasts has almost stopped. Those tailed beasts in the same major country are okay, and sometimes they can communicate with each other. But the Ninetails is more miserable. It has been alone in Konoha for decades, and has never left the village. Just like Chiga said, the Ninetails is actually quite lonely. In the past, it could communicate with the first generation Jinchuriki Uzumaki Mito, who was familiar with it. But since Uzumaki Mito died, it was sealed in Kushina's body again. Originally, it thought this was an opportunity, and made a fuss in Kushina's sealed space for a long time. Unfortunately, Kushina was much more powerful than it imagined, and there was no way to break the seal, and it couldn't even erode Kushina's will. In recent years, as Kushina's sealing technique became more and more proficient, it even had difficulty perceiving the outside world. At this moment, the Ninetales certainly wanted to communicate with the Fourtails and learn about the situation of their tailed beasts. The Ninetales looked at Kushina, then looked at Chiga, and turned his head away with disdain. TSK, who wants to communicate with those guys? Chiga heard this, pointed at the Ninetales, and taught on the spot. Teacher Kushina, you see, it's obvious that you want to communicate with other tailed beasts, but you have to say one thing and mean another. This is a typical tsundere performance. I see. Kushina nodded. Nonsense. The Ninetales was so angry that he almost ran away. Ninetales, how about we make a deal? Kushina said, with a sly smile, and said bluntly, I will let you communicate with other tailed beasts when there is a chance, and you just tell me your name. I don't need it. The Ninetales snorted coldly, turned his head and ignored Kushina. Looking at the Ninetales who didn't speak yet, Kushina looked at Chiga with a pleading look. They both saw that the Ninetales must be tempted by this deal. After all, he hasn't communicated with his own kind for decades, and he would not miss this opportunity. Facing Kushina's gaze, Chiga thought for a while, and suddenly said to Kushina, Teacher Kushina, I have handed Asuma and the other three to Minato-senpai for so long. I also have to see what Minato-senpai has trained them to be, so I'm going to go out first. As he said that, Chiga's spirit body began to dissipate. Kushina was stunned for a moment, and seemed to understand Chiga's intention. She said to the nine-tailed fox again, what do you think? Now that the annoying people have left, there are only two of us left. Do you want to make this deal with me? The nine-tailed fox was silent for a long time, and finally gritted his teeth and said, Uzumaki Kushina, remember, my name is Kuruma. Kuruma, that's a good name. Then I won't call you a stinky fox in the future, I will call you Kuruma. Kushina smiled happily when she heard it, and then said to the nine-tailed fox with a smile, Kuruma, please give me your guidance for the rest of my life. Looking at Kushina, who sincerely wanted to communicate with it, Kuruma was silent for a while. It had the ability to sense malicious intent, but at this moment it did not sense Kushina's malicious intent. After a long while, Kuruma said, don't play the emotional card. It's just a deal between you and me. You have to let me contact other tailed beasts as soon as possible. Okay, I know, but the problem is that I can't leave the village now. Only by letting other Jinchuriki come to Konoha can I do it. Kushina said embarrassedly after hearing this. She originally wanted to give it a try and said this deal, but she didn't expect the nine-tailed fox to take it seriously and say her name. This really stumped her. It is very difficult to let the nine-tailed fox contact other tailed beasts. At this time, the nine-tailed fox also saw Kushina's difficulties and said, you don't have to contact the tailed beasts, as long as you have a little bit of their chakra. Now that you mention it, I really remember that Konoha village should still have the chakra of the four-tailed fox left. Hearing this, Kushina frowned slightly. As the saying goes, the goose leaves its feathers behind, and the four-tailed fox was captured in Konoha. Konoha will definitely try every means to intercept a little bit of the four-tailed fox's chakra from the four-tailed fox for a search. Give me some time. I need to think about it carefully. That place is not easy to enter. Kushina assured the nine-tailed fox. The nine-tailed fox nodded and said, okay, I'll wait for you. Then I'll leave first, and I'll see you next time. Kushina smiled and waved to the nine-tailed fox, and then shouted to the empty space, Chiga, we should go. What? The nine-tailed fox was confused and saw that the spirit of Chiga, which had already dissipated, suddenly condensed again. It knew that it had been fooled by Kushina and this Uchiha brat. Immediately, its eyes rolled back. Chiga smiled at Kushina and said, I said, this guy's also a little shy. Haha, now I believe that you really dreamed of the Sage of Six Paths. Kushina didn't expect Chiga to be so accurate, and laughed. Damned Uchiha brat, I swear here that when I escape, it will be the day of your demise. My lifelong bad reputation is ruined. Kyuubi roared at Chiga. Negative emotions from Kuruma. Emotion value plus 80. Okay, don't get excited, Kuruma. Chiga is doing this for the reconciliation between the two of us. Kushina comforted Kyuubi, but the effect was not very obvious. Looking at Kyuubi twisting its body and trying to break free from the seal, Kushina estimated that it would not be able to calm down for a while. Forget it, the two of us will not laugh at you anymore. We will go out first and come to see you when we have time. Kushina didn't say anything more and went out with Chiga first, leaving Kyuubi alone to calm down. Chapter 145, Changes in the Kingdom of Wind. Haha, Kurama's last expression is so cute. After leaving the sealed space, Kushina started laughing and was in a very good mood. Seeing the Kurama rolling his eyes when he heard that Chiga was still in the sealed space, Kushina's bad taste was very satisfied. What made her most happy was that she and the Kurama had a good start. When she thought that she would be able to reach a consensus with Kurama in the future, become a perfect Jinkriki, and be famous in the ninja world, she danced with excitement. Seeing this, Chiga hit her and said, "Teacher Kushina, don't be so excited. At present, you only know its name. It is not so easy to eliminate its hatred for humans." Well, you are right. Take your time. I have confidence in myself. After being hit by Chiga, Kushina really calmed down. She also knew that if she wanted to eliminate the resentment and hatred in the heart of the Kurama, it was not enough to simply know a name, but she also needed to fill it with her own enthusiasm and love. It's good that you think so. Seeing this, Kyan also nodded with a smile. He had already set up the beginning for Kushina. As for the process of soft and hard persuasion, Kyan didn't need to teach her. I think Kushina, who has opened her mind, will naturally understand how to get along with the Ninetales. Yeah. Kushina encouraged herself and said, I have to improve the sealing technique first. After all, it's not good to keep the Ninetales perception closed. It's easy to get depressed. I have to give it some time to see the outside world. Kushina, who already regarded the Ninetales as a friend, was really open-hearted and soon began to consider the Ninetales. Hearing this, Kyan also reminded, Teacher Kushina, since you have decided to release the seal a little to let the Ninetales feel the outside world, then I suggest you change the way to tie the Ninetales and seal it into a cage. Why? Kushina asked, puzzled. This is hard to explain. Anyway, you just have to listen to me. Chiga looked at Kushina with a meaningful look. Seeing that Kushina didn't understand, he could only say this. As for Kurama's tied up appearance, it's fine that he can't see and sense the outside world. But if Kushina was intimate with Minato, Kurama looked out from Kushina's abdomen. Kurama might feel that he was being raped by Minato. When Chiga thought about that scene, he was worried about Kurama. Okay, I'll listen to you. Kushina saw that Chiga was unwilling to elaborate, but she also knew that Chiga would not harm her, so she nodded and said. A few days later, in the grove of the Uchiha clan, Chiga sat cross-legged by the lake, and in front of him were Asuma, Sarutobi, Kunoha and Shizune. The three of them looked like they were going to ask for an explanation, staring at Chiga. Ahem. Long time no see. Chiga smiled awkwardly. He also knew that it was a bit unfair to just leave the three people to Minato. Because the matter of Uzumaki Misa had been dealt with, Kushina also found the trick on how to conquer Kurama. In other words, Kushina finally had time to spend with Minato. When Minato heard the news, his calm heart instantly became agitated. Without thinking too much, he led Sarutobi, Asuma and the other two to find Chiga, and then teleported away with the Flying Thunder God technique. Chiga guessed that she was probably going to find Kushina. Minato senpai is still very talented in coaching. Look at you now, you are much better than when you just graduated. Chiga looked at the three people in front of him and said with satisfaction. In response, Sarutobi, Asuma and the other two rolled their eyes. They had never seen such a lazy instructor. Kunoha, he said coldly, yes, Senior Minato is much better than someone. Someone actually entrusted us to an unfamiliar Jonin under the pretext of self-cultivation. Humph, that's right. For this, I got a lot of cold stares from that bastard Obito. He even dared to say that I was like a child without a father. Yeah, I'm a little tempted to talk to Lady Tsunade about my instructor. The three of them shared a common hatred and attacked Chiga. Chiga also knew that he had gone too far, so he could only comfort her. Okay, I'll treat you to barbecue at noon, okay? Not sincere. Kunoha, he pouted. Chiga asked, then what do you want? You have to act like an instructor, right? Asuma Sarutobi said, Senior Minato only showed us the skills for patrolling and fighting, and didn't teach us ninjutsu. So, which ninjutsu of mine do you like? Chiga knew that the three guys must have discussed it when they heard it. The three looked at each other, and then Asuma Sarutobi said, Sage mode. Kyan he rolled his eyes. Don't think about that. It's not that I don't want to teach you, but the first condition for learning Sage mode is that your chakra is very large, and you three don't meet this condition. Kyan he really wanted to teach the skills of Sage mode, but the three of them obviously didn't have the qualifications. Hearing this, the three of them also sighed secretly. It seems that Sage mode is something they have no chance of. When the three of them were about to think of other ninjutsu, they suddenly heard a loud eagle cry in the sky. Kyan and the other four looked grim and looked up at the sky. They saw a falcon hovering over Konoha. It seems that it will be next time. You continue to practice here. I'll go take a look. Kyan saw this and understood that this was a call for all the teams that currently had no missions in Konoha village. And being able to dispatch a falcon to notify all the ninjas in the village must have happened. After hearing this, Sarutobi, Asuma and the other two could only watch Chiga disappear in front of them. In a hall in the Hokage building, Chiga pushed the door open and walked in. The whole hall was already full of people, all of whom were captains of various teams. Chiga found a seat and sat down. Because she was not familiar with the people around her, Chiga did not chat. After a while, the third Hokage walked into the hall, followed by Hatake Tsukumo and Jiraiya. Are almost all the people here? Sarutobi rose and stood in front of the stage and said solemnly, Everyone, I summoned you here so urgently, because there is an urgent task that you need to complete. One day ago, the Sand Village in the Wind Country suddenly entered the highest level of alert. At the same time, all spies in the Sand Village lost news, or could not send news, which means that we have no idea what happened in the Sand Village. Hearing this, the captains present all looked solemn. When they heard that the Sand Village was under martial law, they knew that this mission would be difficult. Please give me a monthly ticket. Chapter 146 Provoking Orochimaru again. There must be a reason why the Sand Village behaves this way. For this, we must know what happened in the Sand Village. For this mission, Jiraiya will be in charge and gather 15 teams to sneak into the Wind Country to obtain intelligence. Sarutobi rose and said with a serious face. Jiraiya, who was appointed as the person in charge, walked to the front of the stage. At this moment, Jiraiya did not have his usual cynical expression. His face was serious. He glanced at the ninjas in the audience and said in a deep voice, Everyone, I will not say anything extra. The danger of this mission is self-evident. I need a team that is good at intelligence collection and perception to participate in this mission. At the same time, they also need to have a certain counter-attack ability and be able to leave the battle in time if they are discovered. Our goal is to explore what happened in the Sand Village, not to conflict with the Sand Village. The level of this mission is S level. I hope you will consider the strengths of your team before deciding whether to participate in this mission. After hearing Jiraiya's request, the team leaders in the audience discussed for a while, and some team leaders who met the requirements raised their hands one after another. Chiga did not raise his hand. Although he roughly knew what happened in the Sand Village, he had no evidence. The cage of a village suddenly disappeared and was killed by a genius puppeteer in his own village. It is hard to believe such outrageous information without substantial evidence. Unless Chiga can find the Red Sand Scorpion, but it is thought that the Red Sand Scorpion, who has obtained the body of the third Kazakage, has already hidden in a hole and developed a human puppet. It is definitely not going to appear for a while. Okay, the team whose name I called will stay and discuss the specific matters. The other teams can withdraw first. After Jiraiya saw that the people had been called, he disbanded the meeting. After Chiga left, he returned to the grove. Before Chiga could speak, Sarutobi, Asuma and the other two came up. Asuma Sarutobi asked, Chiga, why are you calling so urgently? Is there something important going on? Can you tell me? The Sand Village went on high alert a day ago, and we lost contact with our spies, so we had to gather a team to sneak into the Wind Country. I didn't participate. Asuma Sarutobi heard this, but he didn't say much. After going on a mission, the three of them had a clear understanding of themselves. It was obviously not something they could do to sneak into a big country like the Wind Country this time. Uchiha looked at the three of them and found that they were in high spirits. He immediately asked in confusion, "Well, what did you train today? Isn't this about caring about the things in the village?" So, Asuma Sarutobi heard this and smiled awkwardly. As soon as Uchiha left, the three of them kept guessing what happened, so they didn't practice. Starting today, the daily training will be doubled. If you can't finish it, you won't have dinner. Seeing this, Uchiha didn't indulge the three of them and said directly in a cold voice. Although he didn't participate in this operation, Uchiha knew that the Third Ninja World War could happen at any time. In such an urgent situation, Uchiha could no longer treat Sarutobi, Asuma and the other two like sheep. They had to be strengthened so that they could survive the war. Time passed in a flash, and a week had passed. Those ninjas who went to the Wind Country to gather intelligence had not returned yet. The entire Konoha village seemed to have fallen into peace again after the emergency call that day. Beside the grove of the Uchiha clan, fire style, ash burning technique. Sarutobi Asuma spit out a large ball of ash from his mouth, attacking Uchiha in the middle with a scorching temperature. Magic, tree binding kill. At this time, Uchiha's illusion also began to work. Uchiha, who was about to escape from the ash burning, fell into the illusion and felt that he was entangled by the trees. He could only watch the ash burning rushing towards him. Boom. Under Sarutobi Asuma's control, the ash covering Uchiha exploded. Success. Sarutobi Asuma and Uchiha saw this scene and laughed excitedly. Earth escape, heart beheading technique. However, at this moment, Uchiha's voice suddenly came from under their feet. Ah. After two screams, Sarutobi Asuma and Uchiha were buried in the ground, with only their heads exposed. Uchiha slowly emerged from the ground and said, "You two are still careless. You have fought with me for so many days, and you should know what ninjutsu I know. Remember, knowing the intelligence of the opponent is the most important thing before the battle. Especially Kunoe, do you think I would be so easily caught by your illusion when I have the Sharingan? Moreover, you were too deliberate when you launched the illusion. Illusions are something that can only have unexpected effects if they are unexpected." After preaching to the two together, Uchiha pulled them out of the ground. As for Shizune, she stepped forward to treat the two. Sarutobi Asuma and the other two had fought against Uchiha in person, and only then did they know that Uchiha was unfathomable. The ninjutsu that came at will, and the unexpected illusions made them suffer. But this high-intensity battle has also brought about earth-shaking changes in the three of them. Many of them have become stronger. Uchiha at this moment, Kushina's call came over. Uchiha waved her hand and asked the three of them to rest aside, and then asked Kushina, "Teacher Kushina, why are you here?" Kushina came to Uchiha's side and whispered, "Uchiha, come to life." Uchiha raised her eyebrows when she heard it. Of course, she understood what Kushina meant. This was the code every time they wanted to cause trouble in Konoha village. And what made Kushina so interested recently was, of course, the chakra of the four-tailed beast. This was a deal between Kushina and Kurama. It seems that Kushina has found out where the chakra of the four-tailed beast is. Seeing that Uchiha didn't say anything, Kushina said, "Uchiha, you must be very sorry that the teacher didn't call you to steal the Book of Seals last time. After all, it's such an exciting thing. This time, stealing the four-tails chakra will make up for this regret for you." Uchiha rolled her eyes at Kushina and then asked, "Where are you going?" "In the third laboratory of Konoha." "Ah. That's the laboratory in charge of Lord Orochimaru. Otherwise we'd better keep this regret. If we are caught by Lord Orochimaru, he will definitely settle all the new and old grudges with the two of us." Uchiha rolled his eyes and almost wanted to directly reject Kushina's invitation this time. It's okay to provoke Orochimaru once or twice. With Sarutobi Hiruzen mediating, Orochimaru won't get angry with them for a few experimental subjects. But things never happen 3 times, and this time it's stealing something as secret as the four-tails chakra. Even Orochimaru won't let them go easily. Chapter 147 Breaking into the laboratory at night. Now that you mention it, it seems so. Kushina thought about it and realized that it made sense. She said distressedly, "But Kurama has urged me several times. If I don't go, it will probably get upset with me again." Uchiha sighed when she heard that. Then she looked at Asuma Sarutobi in the distance, rolled her eyes, and suddenly laughed. Teacher Kushina, I have a good idea. Following Chiga's gaze, Kushina looked over and immediately understood. It's a good idea. Seeing Kushina agreed, Chiga immediately shouted, Asuma, come here. What do you want to see me for? Asuma Sarutobi walked over with a puzzled look on his face. He didn't quite understand why Kushina and Chiga were looking for him together. Although Kushina often brought food to the three of them, it was all for Chiga's sake, so the relationship was not very good. I heard Chiga say that you want me to protect you? Kushina got straight to the point. Yeah. Asuma Sarutobi nodded quickly. The man in front of him was a big shot. At least he could restrain his father. If you want me to deal with the old man of the third generation, it's not impossible. Now there is an opportunity, and I need your participation. After all, if you want to be protected by me, you have to prove your worth, right? Kushina blinked at Asuma Sarutobi and smiled meaningfully. Senior Kushina, if there is anything I can help you with, just ask. Asuma Sarutobi heard that Kushina could help him deal with his father. What else would he think about? And he patted his chest and promised. Grandeur, I like to make friends with kids like you. Kushina gave Asuma Sarutobi a thumbs up, and then said, how about this? You don't have to go back today. Follow Chiga, and wait until night. We will set out to sneak into the third laboratory of Konoha. Break into the laboratory at night. No, my father will break my legs. Asuma Sarutobi froze when he heard it. Humph, you've heard our plan. Do you think you can refuse? You have to go tonight, whether you want to or not. Kushina grinned. Under the coercion and inducement of Kushina and Chiga, the massacre targeting Orochimaru was launched. At this moment, Orochimaru has not started to become perverted, and he still respects Sarutobi Hiruzen. As the son of Sarutobi Hiruzen, Sarutobi Asuma should still have some weight in Orochimaru. Chiga and Kushina did not want Orochimaru to let them go, but just hoped that with Asuma's presence, Orochimaru would not be so heavy-handed. Otherwise, he and Kushina would not be able to stop Orochimaru, who attacked with all his strength. That night, the three of them took advantage of the night to a hidden corner of Konoha. Compared with Sarutobi Asuma, Chiga and Kushina were much more familiar with each other. The two cooperated with each other, and soon opened a small hole in the barrier outside the laboratory. After the three of them walked in, they walked forward about 300 or 400 meters, and saw an experimental building. There were two Anbu guarding the gate. Seeing this, Kushina glanced at Chiga. Chiga nodded, opened her Sharingan, looked around, and then said, in addition to the two at the door, there are 4 secret guards on the roof. 6 Anbu, it's a bit troublesome. Kushina rubbed her eyebrows, made a preliminary plan, and said, well, you hypnotize the 2 Anbu at the door first, and I will control the 4 on the roof, and then you come up to hypnotize them. Okay. Chiga thought about it and nodded. Well, what should I do? Asuma Sarutobi asked in confusion when he saw that the two had arranged everything. He still didn't understand why Chiga and Kushina had to drag him here. He thought he really came here to help. But looking at the familiar appearance of the two, he was completely unnecessary. Kushina hesitated for a while, then said, pay attention to your surroundings, and tell us if you find anything unusual. After that, she had already groped towards the roof of the laboratory, and Chiga also started to act at this time, and he was seen throwing a special kunai. The two Anbu who heard the movement looked over in the direction of the sound, and at this moment, Chiga had already used the Flying Thunder God technique to appear in the direction of the kunai. The two Anbu who just looked over with their eyes stared at Chiga. After a while, the two of them fell to the ground with dull eyes. At this time, Kushina had also climbed to the roof. Sealing technique Vajra Seal. 4 chakra chains shot quickly towards the location of the 4 Anbu on the roof like arrows from a string. The 4 Anbu found something wrong at the first time, but it was too late. The diamond seal is a sealing technique that can suppress the 9 tails, and it is too easy to tie up the 4 Anbu. Almost without them having any reaction, they were tied up like dumplings by Kushina. The chains not only bound their whole bodies, but also tightly strangled their necks, preventing them from rescuing. At this time, Chiga had also reached the rooftop. Without any hesitation, he cast a hypnotic eye on each of them, and soon the 4 people fell asleep. You are very good at hypnosis. You must have done this a lot outside, right? Looking at Chiga, who easily made the Enbu fall asleep, Kushina raised her eyebrows and said. Chiga pointed at the still tied Enbu and replied, Teacher Kushina is still professional. I think Senior Minato likes this tune very much. What nonsense are you talking about? Kushina was angry and wanted to punch Chiga on the head, but she thought it was not appropriate to make a big noise, so she could only give Chiga an expression of I will settle the score with you when I get back. Seeing that Kushina and Chiga had already entered the experimental building, Sarutobi Asuma complained, I really don't feel involved. I was looking forward to it. This feeling was just like when he and Chiga were on a mission in the land of grass, and he didn't need to take any action at all. Chiga and Kushina walked into the laboratory, and under Kushina's lead, they headed straight for the location of the Four Tails chakra. Along the way, the two also encountered many Enbu, but they were all easily resolved with the tacit cooperation of the two of them. Even these Enbu didn't know who they had met, and Sarutobi Asuma could only follow behind the two. Silently, the three of them had arrived at the core of the laboratory. This is it. Kushina's eyes lit up, and the Kurama in her body also told her with certainty that there was the Four Tails chakra inside. Without further delay, Teacher Kushina, you go in first, and we will guard the door. Okay. Upon hearing this, Kushina was also impatient to open the door and go in. At this moment, the three suddenly felt that the entire space suddenly became oppressive, and a hint of coldness was spreading. Sure enough, the only two people in Konoha village who have the courage to appear here are you two. A sinister voice sounded from behind Chiga and the other two. Chapter 148, Uncle Snake's Temptation. Just as Kushina was about to open the door and enter the laboratory, a cold voice sounded. Sure enough, the only two people in Konoha village who have the courage to show up here are you two. Chiga and the other two were startled and turned around at the same time. They just happened to see a slender figure standing on the other side of the passage. It was Orochimaru. Orochimaru folded his arms. On his pale face, a purple eyeshadow extended to the wings of his nose. He wore Magatama earrings and golden pupils like some reptiles. The whole person exuded a cold aura. I didn't expect that I would really encounter the worst situation and be caught by Orochimaru. Kushina and Chiga looked at each other and were a little glad that they brought Asuma Sarutobi. What? Are you running out of experimental materials? You want to steal some from me? Orochimaru looked at the three people with interest. His hoarse and magnetic voice was full of strange charm. When he saw Asuma Sarutobi, his brows frowned slightly. Haha, Lord Orochimaru, you are joking. We didn't touch your experimental subjects. It was all Jiraiya who did it. Kushina laughed when she heard this. When she and Chiga used to steal Orochimaru's experimental materials, they basically waited until Orochimaru was not around. So she really had no direct communication with Orochimaru. Now that she was caught on the spot, her heart suddenly became empty. I still recognize the handwriting of that idiot, Kushina. Orochimaru took out a piece of paper from his arms and threw it to Chiga. Chiga reached out to take it, and after a closer look, it was the note she had written imitating Jiraiya. Good guy, it can be kept for so long. It seems that Orochimaru has always remembered this matter. I said, being able to recognize the handwriting of the white-haired pervert so easily. There must be something wrong between this guy and the white-haired pervert. Kushina whispered in Chiga's ear, but no matter how low her voice was, Orochimaru could hear it clearly with her hearing. Kushina, don't put me with that idiot. Orochimaru's eyes suddenly turned cold. At the same time, the door handle of the gate that passed through the Four Tails chakra suddenly turned back into a small snake. It opened its mouth and bit towards Kushina's neck. Chiga was quick-eyed and quick-handed. He took out the wind knife and cut the small snake in half. Seeing this, Kushina immediately rolled her eyes at Orochimaru. She liked Jiraiya, but it was unclear, which made people misunderstand, and she didn't let people say it. It was really unreasonable. Of course, she didn't dare to provoke Orochimaru again, but she wouldn't let Orochimaru get away with it. When this matter is over, she will go back and complain to Sister Tsunade, saying that Orochimaru bullied her. Let Sister Tsunade discipline her companions. Well, by the way, bring that white-haired pervert with you. Jiraiya, the Orochimaru on the other side was also in a headache. Although Kushina didn't dare to be too presumptuous to him, He didn't dare to do anything to Kushina either. She could provoke Danzō, Jiraiya and him in the village without any scruples, and she was not in trouble at all. Her identity must be extraordinary. He already had some guesses in his mind. After thinking for a while, Orochimaru licked his lips with his snake-like tongue and said, "Uzumaki Kushina, do you know that this is not just my experimental material? If you want to force your way in, even Sarutobi teacher can't protect you. TSK, isn't it just the chakra of the four-tailed beast? I came here today just to see what the chakra of the four-tailed beast looks like." Kushina didn't care when she heard this, as if she was scared. "Oh. So, you are going to force your way in?" When Orochimaru heard this, the cold aura on his body became more concentrated. Chigusa and Kushina looked at each other, then Kushina turned around and kicked the door open, rushing in. Snake limb. Seeing this, Orochimaru also immediately launched an attack and stretched out one hand suddenly. Several snakes hidden in Orochimaru's sleeves flew towards Chiba in an instant. Faced with the sudden move, Chigusa's reaction was also extremely fast. Two magatama condensed on the dark pupils, and with a few strokes, several snakes were cut in half. After dealing with these snakes, Chigusa pulled Sarutobi Asuma in front of him. "Asuma, come alive." Sarutobi Asuma, fuck you. In the previous Anbu, Sarutobi Asuma still thought that he could deal with one in the case of a sneak attack. But now facing Orochimaru, you let me participate again, isn't it a bit outrageous? However, Asuma finally understood his role. Shield. Chigusa and Kushina must have calculated that Orochimaru would not dare to kill him with him around, so they brought him here. Seeing this, Orochimaru really stopped attacking and looked at Chigusa with interest. "Come to think of it, your name is Uchiha Chigusa, right? It seems that we haven't met formally yet." Seeing that Orochimaru did not attack, Chigusa asked a little vigilantly, "Lord Orochimaru, what do you want to say?" Since the other party wanted to chat, Chigusa was also happy. After all, his goal at this moment was to buy some time for Kushina. However, Chigusa still needed to be extremely alert. The other party was the famous #1 kidnapper in the ninja world. Chigusa's age just met the conditions for kidnapping by Orochimaru. God knows if there will be any traps in Orochimaru's words. If he falls into the trap, he may be illegally imprisoned by Orochimaru. Fusion, anything is possible. As if seeing Chigusa's vigilance, Orochimaru smiled and said slowly, "It's nothing. I just want to make a deal with you." "Oh. I don't know what's so special about me that Orochimaru would like to remember me. Please tell me, and I'll change it." Chigusa really didn't want Orochimaru to remember him, so she promised solemnly. "Can your blood be changed?" Orochimaru licked his lips and explained, "I know something about your Uchiha clan. The extreme negative emotions brought by the opening of the Sharingan will plunge your clan members into darkness. But you are such an unexpected existence. I really want to see what's special about you. As long as you can provide me with 500 milliliters of blood every month, I will pretend that you haven't been here tonight. How about that?" Orochimaru's magnetic voice was full of temptation that was hard to describe. Chigusa almost agreed, but she reacted quickly. "Lord Orochimaru, have you not read all my information?" Chigusa shook his head slightly, expelling Orochimaru's illusion, and sneered. At the same time, he looked at Orochimaru with a perverted look. Good fellow, even he, who is proficient in sound illusion, almost fell into the trap. As expected of a kidnapper in the ninja world, he really can't be careless. Chapter 149 Scientific Spirit. Faced with Chigusa breaking free from the illusion so quickly, Orochimaru was speechless. He really hadn't read Chigusa's information seriously. It was just that he suddenly saw Chigusa and was in a good mood. But he didn't care much, showing a harmless expression, and said with a smile, "It's just a little trick, just to make you agree to this deal." "Really?" Chigusa narrowed his eyes, picked up the wind and slashed down, and instantly a small snake that was opening its mouth at his feet was cut in half. "So respected Orochimaru, what's the matter with this little snake?" Chigusa looked at Orochimaru with contempt. With so many despicable tricks, it's no wonder that he has no chance of becoming Hokage. Compared with Minato, Orochimaru is more suitable for doing Danzō's work. "It's just a little trick. Since you don't cooperate, I can only take it myself." Orochimaru failed to abduct and became angry. Then he tilted his head and opened his mouth. In an instant, a small snake appeared in his mouth, and the little snake slowly spit out a sword from its mouth. Orochimaru grabbed the hilt and pulled it out. Uchiha and Asuma Sarutobi cried out at the same time. Sure enough, compared to the pervert, everyone is a level lower than Orochimaru. Before the Chikadra act, Orochimaru rushed towards Chiga and Asuma Sarutobi. Clang! The sound of metal colliding echoed in the corridor. Then a series of fighting sounds rang out. In the darkness, the figures of the two intertwined, and the swords flashed, as if dancing snakes were competing with the flowing wind. Chiga's figure was as agile as the wind, his swordsmanship was light and sharp, and every swing of the sword was accompanied by the crisp sound of wind chimes. Clang clang clang. This brat. Orochimaru was more and more surprised as he fought. His eyes flashed with a strange light in the darkness, and his interest became stronger and stronger. Chiga didn't notice this, but he rarely met someone who could compete with him in swordsmanship. This fight made Chiga a little excited. Chiga lowered his body and swept horizontally. Seeing this, Orochimaru could only jump away to avoid it. At the moment he landed, Chiga followed closely behind him and stabbed Orochimaru in the chest. Puff! The gust of wind in Chiga's hand penetrated Orochimaru's chest without any hindrance, but not a trace of blood flowed out. Orochimaru, who was pierced by Chiga, smiled strangely, and his body slowly melted into a pool of mud. Then dense tadpole characters emerged and spread to Chiga's whole body with the air sword. Oops, it's a sealing technique. Chiga's face changed. Before he could be happy, he only felt that his body was tied up by invisible steel cables and could not move. I got you. The real Orochimaru slowly drilled out from the ground, looking at Chiga with fiery eyes. Chiga struggled for a few times in Orochimaru's murderous expression and found that it was really difficult to break the seal for a while. He immediately smiled awkwardly but decently. Well, Lord Orochimaru, if I give up now, is it too late? Orochimaru chuckled. Chiga-san, do you think it's possible? As he said that, Orochimaru took out a scroll from his arms, unsealed it, and took out a needle. He gestured twice and was not satisfied with the size. Then he picked up a larger and thicker needle and nodded with satisfaction. Looking at the thick needle hole, Chiga broke out in a cold sweat. Orochimaru is really perverted. It's okay for him to like Jiraiya, but he actually wants to give him such a young age an injection. Relax, I'll be quick. Orochimaru comforted Chiga and pointed the needle at Chiga's arm. You're a pervert. Kion roared, no longer holding back his strength. A large amount of chakra rushed out of his body, and the black tadpole patterns covering his body instantly collapsed. After regaining control of his body, Kion did not dare to hesitate, and the wind in his hand swept across Orochimaru. What? Breaking free! Exclamation mark. Orochimaru obviously did not expect Kion to be able to burst out such a powerful chakra. In shock, his body began to twist and avoided Kion's sword. Seeing this, Kion clenched his other hand into a fist, adjusted his posture, and punched out. Bang! Orochimaru was hit by Kion's punch, and the whole person flew backwards like a cannonball. Negative emotions from Orochimaru. Emotion value +10. The first time to obtain Orochimaru's emotion value. Reward scientific spirit talent. It's a close call. I will be drained by this needle. Kion was shocked, but he was secretly happy in his heart. Before, when he and Kushina stole Orochimaru's experimental materials, Orochimaru had never been angry. Either he took out his anger on Kushina, or he didn't care about the experimental subjects. Now that a punch could have such an effect, Chiga couldn't help but feel that it was worth it. Chiga, how are you? At this moment, Kushina came out of the room. She also heard Chiga's roar and rushed out immediately. Teacher Kushina, I'm fine. Did you succeed? Chiga shook her head and asked. Yeah. Okay, then retreat quickly, Chiga said, and took Kushina's hand. Since he received the emotional point, it means that Orochimaru was angered by him. If he stayed, he might be drained by Orochimaru. At the same time, a sword shadow flew quickly in the darkness, but unfortunately, facing the flying thunder god technique, it could only be inserted into the wall. Chiga and Kushina were startled and quickly dodged sideways. Kusugi sword. Kushina looked at the samurai sword that suddenly became longer and exclaimed. Seeing Orochimaru walking out with a gloomy face and murderous intent, Kushina hurriedly shouted, Orochimaru, do you want to kill me? I can tell you that I have a strong relationship with the boss, so think it through. Orochimaru looked at Kushina and Chiga without saying a word. Seeing Orochimaru, who seemed to be intimidated by her, Kushina hurriedly whispered to Chiga, go quickly, if he gets entangled, we can only spend the night in the Anbu tonight. Chiga nodded, but did not leave immediately, but looked directly at Orochimaru's gloomy eyes. After a long time, in Kushina's puzzled eyes, Chiga stuck out her tongue. Lululu. Kushina rolled her eyes at Chiga. Naughty. Swish. Chiga and Kushina disappeared. Orochimaru did not stop him, or he knew that it was useless to stop him in the face of the Flying Thunder God technique. Looking at the direction where the two disappeared, Orochimaru glanced at Sarutobi Asuma, who had always had no sense of existence. Asuma Sarutobi. I didn't get on the bus. I haven't gotten on the bus yet. After a while, Sarutobi Hiruzen came with a group of Anbu. This place is also an important place. Although it is not as well defended as the Book of Sealing, its importance is self-evident. Orochimaru, what happened? Sarutobi Hiruzen asked Orochimaru as soon as he arrived. Uzumaki, Kushina and Chiga sneaked in. Orochimaru simply replied. Why are they here? Sarutobi Hiruzen asked again. From what Kushina said, it's for the chakra of the four-tailed beast. Orochimaru has not yet entered the laboratory, and he doesn't know what is missing, but he still remembers what Kushina said before. He doesn't think Kushina will lie, and the most important thing in this laboratory is the chakra of the four-tailed beast. Hearing this, Sarutobi Hiruzen frowned and thought, why does she want that thing? After thinking for a while, Sarutobi Hiruzen didn't figure it out, so he stopped thinking about it and just looked at his stupid son. He sighed helplessly in his heart. In the past, it was only Kushina, so it was just like that when she did something extraordinary. With Chiga's power increased a lot, but that was all. But now, both of them know that they have to find a scapegoat. The methods are getting more and more advanced. I was the first to do it. Facing the disgusted look of his father, Sarutobi Asuma turned his head away unwillingly. Brother, I will take this responsibility for Chiga and Kushina today. What can you do to me? 5 days later, in a barbecue restaurant, Chiga's team, Kushina and Minato, a total of 9 people sat together. Kushina patted Asuma Sarutobi's shoulder enthusiastically and said proudly, come on, Asuma, order whatever you want to eat today. It's my treat. Also, for your righteous act, I, Kushina, will protect you in the future and promise not to let the old man of the third generation beat you like this again. At this moment, Asuma Sarutobi's face was swollen like a bun, and he still limped when he walked. But it was much better than the previous few days. At least he could get out of bed. Asuma Sarutobi looked at Kushina, then at Chiga, and said vaguely, this is what you said, I must eat you bankrupt today. Facing Asuma Sarutobi's resentful eyes, Chiga turned his head away awkwardly. After he and Kushina left that night, he remembered to forget Asuma Sarutobi. After all, they used to be together, and it was a bit uncomfortable to have more people suddenly. In addition, Asuma Sarutobi didn't have much presence. So when he left, he really forgot about Asuma Sarutobi. Chiga dared to swear that she definitely didn't mean it. Kushina and Chiga felt that they were indeed ashamed of Asuma Sarutobi for this matter, so today they planned to treat Asuma Sarutobi to a big meal to make up for it. Originally, this barbecue was intended to treat Asuma Sarutobi alone, but considering the people in a team, Chiga also called Yuhi Kyunari and Shizune. As for Minato, he was the one who actually paid. Kushina said she would treat them, but Minato and Kushina were one and the same. Her boyfriend was already there, so why did Kushina need to pay? Kushina really thought as she said, and ordered a lot of barbecue. Minato, who was following her, was hesitant to speak, and finally could only sigh and said nothing. Eating the free barbecue, Chiga was still in a good mood, and couldn't help but care about Minato. By the way, Minato-senpai, has Lord Jiraiya returned from the Kingdom of Wind? Chapter 150, The Kingdom of Wind invades, and the war begins. Hearing Chiga's words, Minato nodded and said, Teacher Jiraiya has returned 3 days ago. Have you investigated the matter of the Kingdom of Wind? Chiga continued to ask. Minato shook his head and was about to speak when he heard a powerful voice behind him. Minato, you are here. The person who came was Jiraiya. Since the real master has arrived, Chiga has no need to ask Minato. Minato made way for a seat and let Jiraiya sit down. Master Jiraiya, did you get any information during this infiltration operation? Chiga asked. Jiraiya took a piece of barbecue and stuffed it into his mouth. After swallowing it, he said, the mission has failed. Only 5 of the 15 teams returned, and even I almost couldn't come back. Is it so serious? Did the 3rd Kazekage personally go to the Kingdom of Wind? Hearing this, Minato's face suddenly condensed, and he looked at Jiraiya solemnly. As a disciple, he knew Jiraiya's strength very well. Even now, he would never be Jiraiya's opponent. There are only a few people in the Wind Country who can hurt Jiraiya. No, it was the old woman Chiyo from the Wind Country. She was really cruel when she used poison. If it weren't for my tough life, you would have almost only seen my corpse back. Jiraiya said with lingering fear. He suffered a great loss at the hands of Chiyo. The poison that was hard to defend against made him unable to exert his full combat power. He could only flee in embarrassment, and almost died in the Wind Country. Ah, the poison in your body, Jiraiya teacher. Don't worry, it's almost healed. Jiraiya stretched his body and continued. As soon as I came back, I found Tsunade. Tsunade is a specialist in restraining old woman Chiyo. In less than a day, she detoxified the poison prepared by Chiyo, and even said in disdain that next time, don't use such trivial things to disturb her gambling interest. This is only Tsunade. If someone else came to treat Jiraiya, Minato probably wouldn't even be able to make it to Jiraiya's funeral. Hearing Jiraiya's words, Minato couldn't help but sigh. Lady Tsunade really deserves the title of Princess Tsunade. At this time, Chiga asked maliciously, then Jiraiya, what price did you pay? Jiraiya glanced at Chiga. Of course he knew what Chiga was asking. Isn't it just that Tsunade cares about money? In fact, if it wasn't for the injury on duty this time, Tsunade might have blackmailed him without leaving any underwear. But even so, Jiraiya also paid a large sum of silver notes to Tsunade. Of course, the village reimbursed. However, in order to show that he and Tsunade have a close relationship in front of these juniors, Jiraiya still patted his chest and said, Tsunade and I are friends who have passed our lives. How could I be blackmailed? And besides, who am I? Jiraiya, a well-known pervert. Before Jiraiya finished speaking, Kushina continued with a serious face. It's not just an ordinary pervert. Chiga agreed with Kushina's opinion and added another sentence. Jiraiya. Negative emotions from Jiraiya. Emotion value plus 80. The two of them sang in unison and exposed all his past. Now he was in a bad mood, hunched over, and full of negative pressure. Even the hot barbecue restaurants due to the barbecue could not warm up the coldness in Jiraiya's heart. Jiraiya felt that, since Kushina and Chiga finished talking, everyone in the barbecue restaurant looked at him with a strange look. Teacher Jiraiya, that's not right. If they find out that it is you who appeared in their Wind Country, I think even the 3rd Kazekage will personally stop you, right? Fortunately, there was the warm-hearted Minato, who brought the topic to the point, which eased Jiraiya's embarrassment. Jiraiya rolled his eyes at Minato when he heard this. Minato is a child who likes to be so pragmatic. It sounds like he shouldn't come back, but he has been puzzled about this for a long time. As the strongest 3rd Kazekage, there is no reason to tolerate him appearing in his territory. Minato, you think too simply. How can the cage of a village leave the village so easily? Jiraiya shook his head and said, although this is indeed a suspicious point, considering that the cage of a village will not leave the village for no reason, Jiraiya did not think much about it. However, Chiga knew what was going on, and at this time he reminded Jiraiya. Jiraiya-sama, have you ever thought that maybe there is something wrong with the 3rd Kazekage, so he can't deal with you? Chiga, don't talk nonsense. I heard that the 3rd Kazekage is the strongest among them. How could there be a problem? Maybe he is just too lazy to do anything with the white-haired pervert. Kushina shook her head at Chiga. She didn't quite believe Chiga's guess. However, for Jiraiya, this was a wake-up call. There is something wrong with the 3rd Kazekage. Jiraiya's face changed slightly, and he fell into deep thought. Chiga saw that Jiraiya attached importance to this guess, so he didn't say anything more, and ate the barbecue slowly. No, I have to tell the old man about this. Jiraiya thought for a long time and felt that Chiga's guess made sense. After that, Jiraiya hurriedly left the barbecue restaurant. The rest of the people were shocked. Is it really the third Kazakage who has a problem? No way. At this time, they had not experienced the big scene that would happen decades later. So in their cognition, the strength of a cage-level strongman was already the ceiling of the ninja world. And who can threaten the ceiling in someone else's territory, surrounded by layers of ninjas? With this guess, everyone had no intention of eating this barbecue. Only Sarutobi Asuma was still desperately stuffing the barbecue into his mouth. After all, this barbecue was earned by his beating. 3 days later, an eagle cry spread throughout the entire Konoha village again. The Kingdom of Wind has invaded. In the Hokage's office, Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at the latest information in his hand in silence, and his face became more and more gloomy the more he looked at it. In front of him were Jiraiya, Tsunade and Orochimaru, his 3 disciples. Before the meeting of the Jonin, he had to hold a brief meeting with his disciples. Just last night, the Kingdom of Wind suddenly crossed the Kingdom of River and directly launched a large-scale invasion of the border of the Kingdom of Fire. Even though Konoha had guessed that there was a problem with the third Kazakage, it also considered making strict defenses at the border, but the ninjas of the Kingdom of Wind still broke through the border. In just one day, the war had already extended to the territory of the Kingdom of Fire. After reading the scroll mentioned in the article, Sarutobi Hiruzen suddenly threw away the intelligence scroll and said angrily, "The group of idiots in the sand village, it's fine that their own cage was lost, but they actually blamed it on me. If I had this ability, why didn't I make the entire sand village disappear?" Facing the furious Sarutobi Hiruzen, Jiraiya, Tsunade and Orochimaru standing in front of him did not speak. Orochimaru picked up the intelligence scroll thrown on the ground by Sarutobi Hiruzen and took a look at it. After reading it, he licked his lips with interest and chuckled. The village shadow has not been heard from for more than half a month. The wind country is really getting worse and worse. And, Sarutobi teacher, did you really not kill him? As the leader of a village, he can be directly considered dead after disappearing for such a long time. After all, the existence of the wind shadow is not only the highest military force of a country, but also the spiritual leader. This is not the way to play with heartbeats. Hey, Orochimaru, don't say sarcastic words at this time. Jiraiya on the side poked Orochimaru and signaled Sarutobi Hiruzen's furious eyes with his eyes. Sarutobi teacher, if possible, I want to serve as the frontline commander of the wind country this time. Orochimaru ignored Jiraiya, his good friend. Since being exposed by Kushina, he also found that Jiraiya's existence would affect his image in Konoha village. He is still a strong contender for the position of Hokage, and he must not have a scandal with Jiraiya again. What are you thinking about? Jiraiya had never seen his best friend take the initiative to apply for a fight, and looked at Orochimaru with a little confusion. Orochimaru glanced at Jiraiya, too lazy to explain to this idiot. He didn't have much experimental materials, and this war was a good opportunity to replenish some. At this moment, Orochimaru was not as cruel and bloodthirsty as he would be in the future. He could even use his own people as materials mercilessly. He just wanted to use the war to collect some valuable corpses and study the secrets of the human body. But no matter what, this kind of thing is not very humane, and he would not say it in front of Sarutobi Hiruzen. Sarutobi Hiruzen took a few deep breaths and calmed down a little. Then he looked at Orochimaru and said in a deep voice, "If you are the commander of the wind country, I will be relieved, but the commander of the wind country this time is Chiyo, and you." In fact, he called these 3 people over just to decide who would be the frontline commander. Orochimaru could indeed be the commander, but Sarutobi Hiruzen needed to consider more than just the wind country. The invasion of the land of wind into the land of fire, no matter what the reason, has completely broken the peace agreement of the ninja world, which means that other major powers will also join in. The land of fire occupies the most fertile land in the ninja world, and its position is surrounded by major powers. Sarutobi Hiruzen must take into account that other major powers will take the opportunity to launch a sudden invasion, so the selection of personnel cannot be made rashly, and the best steel must be used on the blade. After hesitating for a long time, he looked directly at Tsunade, who who had not looked at him or spoken since she came in. Tsunade, the commander of the Land of Wind this time is Chiyo. You should know your old opponent very well. Tsunade had been looking down at the ground, but unfortunately her breasts were too big, and she could only see 2 lumps of white things after looking around. After hearing what Sarutobi Hiruzen said, she raised her head calmly. What do you want to say? End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.